And welcome to the Cult Cinema Circle podcast. My name is Jesse, and I'll be your host. So, on today's episode, we are going to head over to the Kellerman's resort, the lake resort, to go on a nice summer vacation with our family. And we're going to head over to the staff quarters and watch some Dirty Dancing. And we'll also, I guess, carry a watermelon for some reason. But anyway, other than all of that we're doing today, on today's episode, we are going to be covering a film that may or may not be a cult classic, but you know what? It's my show. I'll do what I want. We're covering 1987's Vestron Pictures' Dirty Dancing. I myself could not do this alone. So I want to bring on somebody who is an absolute expert of this film. And it is literally a favorite movie of hers, if not her favorite. So this will be a fun episode where, she may or may not be the expert on it. And I'm just here to, chime in every so often. Please welcome back to the podcast my sister, Sarah Heidelberg. Sarah, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I love that. We are on Zoom today because even though I said I would come to your house, I just didn't feel like it because I'm tired and it's the weekend. So I don't want to go anywhere.
I totally get it. It's okay.
I totally understand. And I also saw you literally a couple days ago. So it's fine.
Yeah, Thursday,
yes, we did. But yeah, so I guess my history with this film, if we have to start, shockingly enough, even though Sarah and me literally lived in the same house for over 20 plus years, I had never seen this movie like ever until recently. And I know that's so shocking. But like I never did. And so, but I always was very aware of it because of you, specifically you. But like, but yeah, I mean, I only ever watched it for really this recording.
You're welcome for that.
Of course. But I really wholeheartedly enjoyed myself with it. I think this movie is, I think it's great. I will get into why I think it's like punk as fuck. And I love that. But I can see why people really like it a lot. And, and because you're my strategy manager at this point, and, talking about like, what episodes I'm going to be working on or like anything like that. I believe you asked me, when I was getting the show off the ground, would you do an episode on Dirty Dancing? I was like, maybe, like, why not? Like, you'd have to be on for it, I guess, right? But I was like, yeah, why not? Who cares? It's fine. But I do think it's interesting because I think there is some cult DNA in here a little bit in terms of just the following this movie has and kind of just how it came to be, really, and just the journey it went through. But yeah, that's my history, but I'm not going to talk too much more. Sarah, I just want to know, why this movie? Why did you want to come on and talk about it? And what is this movie like? I guess gather your thoughts how you want to, but what does this movie mean to you? And why is it one of your favorite films?
So I don't really know why it's my favorite. I mean, there's just something about it. I mean, sometimes people just love a certain movie and it's just, they don't really have an explanation for it. I think it's a couple things, actors, the music. I think plays a big part of it, but I just love it. Like, I think it's a couple things in there together that make it what it is, and I just really like the movie. I don't really have like a specific
yeah.
Oh, I love like it's the only movie I've ever watched. Honest truth, because I've watched a lot of movies.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much anymore, but I used to definitely watch a lot more movies like in my teen years.
Mm-hmm.
And this was one that I literally watched like 3 times in a row. Like I watched it, rewinded it on VHS.
Yes.
So, show my age here. Literally, it would be doing the little swirl, like because it wasn't like you could hit main menu and then go back to the thing.
Yeah,
like,
you had to literally watch the whole thing in reverse, right?
I'd have to exactly. And then it would get to the beginning, and I did that like 2 or 3. Like I remember being like 15 or 16, and I kid you not, I did that in my room.
Yeah,
when we lived in Aberdeen.
Oh yes, so we lived in you were in your little back room that you lived in. Oh yes,
yeah,
with the bugs.
I did, and that was not a fun room. It was a little bit bigger, but it was not fun because it was like whatever. I remember doing that. I know I definitely did at least twice, and there might have been one time I did it 3 times in a row. I mean, just.
Yeah.
What else are you going to do when you're 16,
Right, except go to school and do homework, but whatever.
Right. I have 2 memories that stick out in my mind about this movie. The first one being I was exposed to it probably when I was thinking about it a few days ago. I thought maybe I was younger, like 6, 7, 8, but I don't think that's right. I think I was probably more like 12, 13, 14.
Sure.
I think now that I'm like really kind of like do math in my brain, I'm like, how old was I? Our cousin, Liz, had known the movie, obviously. She's a couple years older than us.
Right.
And I'd watch it at her house. I went over. We spent the night and at our aunt's house, their
Uh-huh.
house, and had watched it. But it wasn't like that feeling for me, like where I was like, oh, like I mean, I liked it
Hmm.
because, as we have said on the pod before, I'm a sucker for
Hmm.
80s movies, some John Hughes movies, and that genre of 80s.
Right.
And this doesn't fall under him, but it definitely is an 80s movie.
Oh,
So I
completely.
definitely have a soft spot in my heart for 80s movies, and I've watched a good chunk of them.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like, oh my god, I was obsessed with it then, but that was my first time remembering watching the movie. So that was teenage, preteen, teenage. And then I guess it stuck with me a little bit. Like I guess like if it was came on TV, I'd watch it, or those channels that you have, that ABC Family and now whatever Freeform, those things, they would play certain movies. CBS, certain times, you'd stick, try and find something to watch, and it would be on, and if it came on, I'd watch it. So I don't really remember where my obsession, well, I mean not obsession, but my very strong liking towards it came. Then I remember being 15, 16, having VHSs, because we still had, VCR back then, and I had one back in my room. And there was a couple movies I had, like Disney movies, like Little Mermaid and stuff like that. And Dirty Dancing was one of them. And yeah, I just remember just hanging out. I had a computer back there, and I just remember like hanging out in my room and like playing on the MySpace, again, showing my age, good lord. And yeah, I
The
just
good old
really,
days.
it's just such a core memory for me, I gotta say. So, and yeah, I mean, I had this little ass TV. I mean, that TV was maybe 20
Oh, it was
inches.
like, yeah, it was like 20. It wasn't even that
It was
big.
it was funny because I think I actually might have a picture somewhere, like in my somewhere, like, well, not mine, somewhere, and I think I have a picture like in the background. I'm like, it was such a small little TV. So I remember, yeah, I remember, putting it in and letting it play out and watching it,
Hmm.
and again rewinding it, and because I watched it so much, and I would watch it, rewatch it. I mean, I could recite pretty much the whole movie.
Right.
So that's another thing. When you like a movie that much and you can like would quote it all the time. I mean, not quote it like out, but I was just like when I was watching it, like I knew the
Right.
next thing they were gonna say. I would like
Right.
recite it, and But yeah, I mean, to make a long story short, again, it's just one of those movies that I had a couple movies in my pocket that I could do that with, like Romeo and
Yeah.
Michelle, and
Oh,
Forrest
completely.
Gump is a bit of a long watch, but I do like enjoy watching that movie.
Yeah.
Um, but Dirty Dancing just holds up. Nothing has ever came close to me rewatching it like I did.
Hmm.
And again, there's just so many different. There's the music is so good.
Yes. Yeah.
Patrick Swayze,
I know.
is like another part of it that's makes it special, and just
Hmm.
like the vibe of the whole movie. You just can't really do it anymore. Like a movie like that, like it was
Oh,
what it was for
completely.
the time, and it just was great. So that was
Yeah.
that's I love it. And however many
Right.
years later, I mean, let's say 20 years later, I can
Uh-huh.
appreciate other movies, and I definitely like other movies out there, but it's just that's my top number one. If somebody goes,
Totally.
what's your favorite movie? It's Dirty Dancing. If you want to get me
Yeah.
anything Dirty Dancing, totally okay. Like,
Please
go
do.
for
It's
it.
all good. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, totally. And I also, it's funny you bring up Patrick Swayze just because, like, I feel like that was a big part of it too, because I know you also liked Ghost quite a bit, if I'm not mistaken. So, I mean, it doesn't hurt that he's also in there too, looking very sexy. Or we'll get into Patrick Swayze hour because, oh, God, anyway. But yeah, so I mean, yeah, I totally get that though. And we can get into a whole lot because I think this movie it was kind of the little movie that could really, and I can get into a little bit about what that means, but like, you know, I think the success of this movie wasn't something that people thought would happen. And so I just think that's very interesting. So, as we normally do on the show, we're going to go through just a few figures of the film, talk about how the movie came to be, because I think the production history of this film is very interesting and all that kind of stuff. So, Dirty Dancing was released August 21st, 1987. So, you're hearing this in September because happy birthday, Sarah. It's almost Sarah's birthday in a couple days. So, because I wanted to let her do it, we didn't do it in August. We were going to do it this month. So, but yes, there you go. About a runtime of 100 minutes. So we're looking at an hour 40 pretty much, which is good. It doesn't feel too long and doesn't feel too short. It was distributed by Vestron Pictures, which I'll get to in our production history. And then the budget of this movie is 4.5 million estimated. And for any of you who are not familiar with film or whatever, that is low budget. Okay. low budget film. Like, we can get into all that, but yeah.
You say it low budget, and I,
Mm-hmm.
definitely from some of the other figures you probably said in some of your other movies, it doesn't look low budget. I mean,
I
I don't know.
know.
Do you think that it
Oh
doesn't?
no, not at
I
all.
think I think with what they had and what they worked with, I think they made it work really well. And it doesn't, because
Right.
sometimes you can watch something and go,
Oh,
"Oh yeah, like
completely.
that's bad. Like that's
Yeah.
bad." For you have something that has 20 million, and then it's like I feel
Yeah.
like you could sit there with something that is that amount, and they were working with like way less than that.
Right. And it looks
So
really
whoever
good. Yeah.
whoever who was in charge of getting that stuff done and dealing
Mm-hmm.
with that did a good job, because and again,
Yep.
maybe I'm being biased because it's my
Oh,
favorite
not at
movie,
all. I don't think it is, because I absolutely think so. And I will
but I
totally
think
get
they did a really good
into,
job.
I think they did too. And we'll get into all that because I love the people who made this movie, like, honestly. So then opening weekend ranking gross, it was at number 4 with a gross of 3.9 million its first weekend, which is almost the budget of the movie, which is a pretty good sign. Overall, the domestic gross, meaning what it made in the US and Canada, was about $64,577,242. Apparently, internationally, it made $150 million, which, again, I guess was all over the world other than US and Canada. So then the projected, or really not projected, but like the figures that we have now, just overall worldwide box office, is $214,577,242. So for a movie that only cost $4.5 million to make, for it to make 214 million is pretty damn good. Okay. But yeah, so
I'd say that's
I'd
amazing.
say it's amazing. Like, yeah, and it's of course been re-released, I believe, so that also figures into it. But I mean, yeah, this again, I think it's the little movie that could. So yeah,
I definitely want to go over a few things, obviously maybe like near the when we're done with some stuff, but
yeah.
I was thinking about it, and I was thinking about it last night or the night before, because I recently rewatched it, probably my like
Mm-hmm.
500th rewatch. No, okay, I haven't
Yeah.
seen it that many times, but I've definitely seen it a lot, but not 500. But I've definitely seen it a lot. Probably,
Right.
probably like my most rewatched like movie. I've probably seen that one the most. But anyway, because I'm a comfort person. Like some people are like, I can watch a movie one time and that's it. Like I don't need to watch it again. Like I'm not like that. Like I love movies,
Mm-hmm.
and if there's certain ones out there, and TV shows too, I'm the same way. It's a comfort thing. Like you know what's gonna happen. It makes you happy, whatever. So anyway,
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking about it. I was thinking about Patrick Swayze, and I was thinking
Mm-hmm.
about Jennifer Grey, obviously the two title characters of the film.
Yes.
And I thought about it. They were in a movie about 3 or 4 years before this.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Red
And
Dawn.
and I was thinking about that. I was like, oh yeah, because it ties into something I put in my little notes when I was watching it. That
Mm-hmm.
again, when I first watched it, I didn't know about it. This is more about coming in reading trivia,
Mm-hmm.
and because I'm such a fan, I have gotten, which I'm surprised I don't have more of, but Mark about maybe 10 years ago, they come out with the 20th anniversary, 25th, 30th,
Yes.
and I mean it's sitting like in a couple years it'll be at its 40th anniversary, and then it's
Uh-huh.
wild. So
Yep.
it's like, yeah, anyway, so he got me one for the 25th anniversary, and I remember it was funny. I remember being at Best Buy, and I saw it, and it was had a pretty cover, and it was however much it was, and I think it was like around my birthday or whatever, or
Mm-hmm.
kind of because again you said this came out in August. So I think
Yes.
he got it for me, and I have it downstairs. But it's kind of like in a bulky and it's cool though. It came with a couple cool things, and then it
Mm-hmm.
just has a lot of like behind the scenes and
Yep.
music videos and little booklet, little. It's really cool, and I haven't really looked at it in a while, which is bad. But anyway, but anytime they do that with like a 30th or 30, they kind of bring that stuff out. So I remember definitely watching it when I first got it, and taking that all in and finding out different stuff about it. But my thing about that is they didn't get along. Like it's kind of funny how
Yeah. And we'll get
they
into
didn't get
that too.
along in
Yeah.
that movie. Yeah. And the other thing I was thinking of, I just wanted to get it out, was, and unfortunately I didn't finish it, so I'm only saying from what kind of need to go back reread it.
Mm-hmm.
But Jennifer Grey wrote a memoir, and obviously she talks about Dirty Dancing because
Yeah.
that's like her major breakout role. But yeah, I mean, I watch it because it's kind of from her beginning. Her dad was a famous like I think Broadway actor or something. And
he
so
just originated the Wizard and Wicked. It's fine, and the MC and Cabaret. It's whatever.
Yeah.
Joel Grey.
So obviously, anytime you read a memoir, it kind of starts from there when they first started,
right?
How their parents met, how they came to be, blah blah.
Yeah.
I did read about a little bit about her nose job and how that kind of like did things, but I don't think I got, because it kind of goes in parts, like when she was a teenager.
Yeah.
And I just didn't get around to reading all of it. But anyway, I definitely want to reread it and get to the part, which talked about fantasy. But I think over their time, I think they definitely were friends and all that stuff. But I find it funny that they did that movie beforehand and they knew each other and they didn't get along, and then they did this like love, this love, movie. Not love. I mean, they love, but
it's a romance. It's a love story.
It's a romance coming of age, and how that works. And they sold it pretty good. I mean, I wouldn't have thought that they really didn't like each other back in the day, back a couple years before that. But yeah, I should reread her book. But anyway,
do it. Yeah, I can only imagine. Like, I think she also talks about how like her kind of coming up years were crazy because her father's famous, really, and so I'm sure she was able to have a certain level of excess to her life, going out and partying and stuff, So, but yeah, I don't know. It's kind of cool with that, but. Yeah, we're looking with like critical scores. We have a 72% from critics on Rotten Tomatoes with about 80 reviews or so. And then, of course, we have a 90% from audiences from about 250,000 ratings that are on Rotten Tomatoes. So needless to say, I think a lot of people do like this movie. And then 3.6 out of 5 on Letterboxd. Now we get into the cast and the crew of this. So we have our director, Emile Ardolino, who in fact was a gay man who unfortunately passed away of AIDS. But he was the guy who directed this film, and it was his first directorial movie. Like it was the first thing he ever directed. He actually won an Oscar for a documentary he did about dance schools in New York or something like that. It was like a little documentary short, and he won an Oscar for that. But he had never directed an actual feature film before. And so for that, he did that. But he also did, do you know what other movie he also directed, Sarah?
It probably said it in that thing, and I don't remember. I don't know.
It's a little, I want to see if you can guess. A person who actually starred in another movie with Patrick Swayze leads the film that he directed. And this person may or may not have also won an Oscar for the movie that she was in Patrick Swayze with.
Sister Act.
Yes, he was the one who directed Sister Act. So that's fun. And then he also did the sequel to 3 Men and a Baby called 3 Men and a Little Lady. So he did that as well.
Hold on, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. He directed 3 Men and a Baby?
No, he was the one who did the sequel of it.
Oh, 3 Men and a Lady.
A little lady, yeah.
Yeah.
Because that was right around the time where I think he was like just about to pass away. Yeah. So it's the sequel to that movie. Yeah. But he did not do 3 Men and a Baby. No. But he brought back the same. It brought back the same guys though. Yeah. Because it was right around the time where he was, I think, on his way out. So unfortunately, but yeah, Emile, we love him, and believe me, because I will already say right here, right now. I mean, I can already say it. This movie is punk as fuck because it was written by a woman who we'll get into, Eleanor, in a little bit. It was produced by Linda Gottlieb, who this has been a big thing for her too, and it was directed by a gay man in 1987. Like, I think that's awesome. So I gotta give props where props are due. The story was written and the screenplay was written by Eleanor Bergstein. Like I said, she's really only known for this movie. She did do a movie called It's My Turn where she wrote it, which we can get to a little bit. But generally, this is what she's well known for, and I think she's been able to make millions of dollars off of, which good for her. But yeah, and then we have our composer John Morris. So he was brought in to do the composing. Of course, they also had somebody to get all the music for this movie, which cost them a pretty penny. But John Morris, he also did the producers, the original musical movie, and he also composed Young Frankenstein with Gene Wilder and all that, so that's cool. And then cinematographer is Jeffrey Jur, I believe. Some of the things he did Bridgerton, the television show on Netflix, How Stella Got Her Groove Back with Angela Bassett and Taye Diggs, a little movie that you like but your husband hates, which is My Big Fat Greek Wedding. He's the same guy who also did that. And also Dexter. He did some of the episodes of Dexter, quite a few of them.
Mark hates My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
I know, he really does. He really hates it, but
He's
it's
such
the
a
same
hate.
guy. It's the same guy who shot that one. So that's kind of cool. And then our editors, Peter C. Frank, he did Blue Bloods, which is the Donnie Wahlberg thing. Is it Donnie Wahlberg, the TV show Blue Bloods? Or am I thinking the wrong guy?
It's Danny Wahlberg, yes.
Okay. And he also did the movie. I don't know if you've ever seen it, Sarah. Have you ever seen Strike with Gabby Hoffman, Kirsten Dunst, and who else is in it? Monica Keena. You ever see that movie?
No.
Or all I want to do is what it's called. It's a good little movie. I think you should watch it. It's about these girls. Oh my god, the Heather Matarazzo's in it. Mare Whittingham. Or God, who the fuck is her name? Yeah, Mare Whittingham or whatever her name is. She's in it. One of the Redgrave women is in it. It's a good little movie. It's about these girls who go to a girls' school in the 60s and they're going to be co-ed. It's a whole thing. But he also edited that. So that's kind of our cast and crew, or the crew at least. The cast, as you said, we have Patrick Swayze in the lead role of Johnny Castle. Before this, he was known for Red Dawn, of course, Roadhouse, and a little movie that he was not in yet. Never mind. From this movie, he then went on to be in movies like Ghost, and also a little movie that you still need to watch, but I do own it. To Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar, which I also think he does fabulous on. And you will also probably be getting an episode on that soon. So yeah, To Wong Fu, it's amazing. But yeah, so he did that movie. And then Jennifer Grey, as you said already, she's the daughter of Joel Grey. But she is known for Red Dawn, and then Ferris Bueller's Day Off, which, if nobody has already heard this before, I did hate Ferris Bueller at one point, and I hate this movie less. I still don't like Ferris that much, but I do like the movie as a whole. And Jennifer Grey has something to do with that because I think she's actually pretty good in it.
And fun fact, she dated Matthew Broderick.
Oh, really? Cute. Love that. Yeah.
Yeah,
that makes
well,
sense.
like, not to go into her dating history.
But again, we can get into that too because we also know who almost got this role. And
you are teaching the grasshopper is the.
Oh yes, I'm teaching you something. Well,
I mean,
we can.
Okay, if you say it, I might remember, but I don't know.
Yeah, and it ties into Ferris Bueller. So anyway, let's
she dated Matthew Broderick, and this is kind of like public knowledge, obviously. And again, she has her book out, which you're gonna need to reread, or finish reading, I should say. But anyway, they dated for a little bit, and it was kind of funny that they played brother and sister, and I think they were dating at that time, but I don't know.
Probably.
Unfortunate thing was apparently they got into a car accident together, and they I don't know whose fault it was, but it's something, again, public knowledge, and there was a fatality from who they hit. That's unfortunate that happened.
Yeah, it's the unfortunate Rebecca Gayheart of it, and like Caitlyn Jenner and all that. Yeah.
And then
or Brandy.
And then also, which I did not know this until she did her going around interviews, whatever. Johnny Depp, apparently. I'm like, man.
I know. Like, what the hell? I mean, everyone was dating everyone back then, okay? Sarah, listen.
And Johnny Depp in the 80s.
I know. Nightmare on Elm Street. Yeah, come on. Anyway.
Not that I watched that, but he was cute back then.
So then we have that. We then have Jerry Orbach as Dr. Hausman. He is
Mr. Law and Order.
Mr. Law and Order, but also Beauty and the Beast. He was oh my god, Lumiere or whatever, right?
I was thinking about that when he came up on the screen. I thought about how you were saying, like, you know who he voiced, yes. And I'm like, yeah, duh.
Of course, yeah. And then Cynthia Rhodes as Penny, so Johnny's dancing partner. She was in Flashdance, and also Staying Alive, which is the Bee Gees movie, with all their music in it. That's not Saturday Night Fever.
Fun fact, I know that. You know, it's funny. We talk about Saturday Night. That's when John Travolta, right?
Yes.
So
and the mom from Even Stevens.
So Staying Alive is a completely separate movie.
It's a completely separate movie. I think it's a movie that literally is like, it's a completely different one, yeah.
Okay. But also, another fun fact about Cynthia Rhodes is she was married to Richard Marx.
Oh, yeah, one of the Marx Brothers?
No, Richard Marx, singer.
Oh, what did he sing? Tell me.
Right here, waiting.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. I don't even know what that song is, but okay.
Well, it's funny because me and Mark went to go. Me and Mark were driving somewhere yesterday, and it came on, and I was like, "That is so
Oh,
funny," because I was going to tell Jesse that
I love
I
that.
didn't know about this. If it was in trivia that she was, I don't think they are no longer together. They were definitely
Probably not
married back.
now.
They were married for a long time, but I don't think they were. I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
they did
yeah.
divorce. But yeah, no, he sings the Right Here Waiting. I think it came out in like '89 or something like that, or
Dude,
'90. And I think he might have had like another hit or two. But Right Here Waiting is his like ballad,
a
like
big,
very
big thing.
emotional
Yeah.
ballad. But yeah, they were husband and wife for a while.
I love that for them. And then she was also in Xanadu, the Olivia Newton-John masterpiece that is. And also very dancey, very like crazy. So yeah. But yeah, I mean that's a little bit about
Which
that.
she was basically all in dancing movies, essentially, right?
Oh, she's in a bunch of dancing movies, dude, because she just can dance really well.
There you
Okay,
go.
so yeah, we'll get into some production history. So Dirty Dancing in large part, unless you have stuff you want to like kind of share throughout, of course, because I want you to also, but I also have to do my job and like make sure that I talk about it. But yeah, but I don't know if I'm going to blow your mind, girl. Oh my God. So Dirty Dancing is based in large part on the screenwriter Eleanor Bergstein's own childhood. It's not her whole life, but it's based on certain things. Like she was the youngest daughter of a Jewish doctor, okay, from New York. She did spend time in the Catskills as a kid, but her and people did call her baby till she was like 20. So I mean, there are certain things that are part of her life that are in Baby, but the movie itself is a movie. It's not her life. So makes that distinction.
It just
Anyway,
has aspects of
it
her
has
life in there.
aspects.
It's not a
Yes.
play by play of everything.
Exactly. And so in 1980, she wrote a screenplay for the Michael Douglas film It's My Turn, which I mentioned earlier. However, she put in, because she grew up going to the Catskills, doing something like the Housemans did, but she also got into some dirty dancing, kind of like how this movie was. Like she had that kind of like, she was good at it too. And she put in a scene with an erotic dancing scene in this movie, but it got cut. And so she was like, all right, well, you know what? I'll take this kind of scene with dirty dancing. I'm going to make a whole fucking movie about it, bitch. That's what I'm going to do.
So It's My Turn. She was trying to put an erotic dance in it,
Yes,
and they
she
scrapped it.
tried. They cut it.
Wow.
And then she
Damn.
was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'll do
Dumb.
it.
Dumb on them. That is that part in Pretty Woman where it's like huge.
Oh, huge. Big mistake. Huge.
Mistake. Huge.
Love it. No, it's seriously like they do. And they talk about in the movies that made us, which on Netflix, there's the movies that made us. They do have an episode on this. I just watched this morning. But yeah, I mean, they had this movie that she wrote because she didn't write. She was always a writer, but like she didn't have a huge, it's not like she was an accomplished screenwriter, right? Like she did the It's My Turn movie. And then she did this movie, which again, didn't know if it was going to be a hit or not. So she decided to do this whole thing. And all she really knew was that she wanted to make this story, and she knew she wanted good music in it. She was like, all right, cool, great. So then, yeah. So, and she took inspiration from her youth dance competitions she did back in the day. And in 1984, she pitched the idea to an executive MGM named Eileen Maisel, who liked this idea. And she teamed Bergstein with our producer, Linda Gottlieb. And these two women, and again, we'll talk about it a little bit as well. These two women, they got together, they had a nice lunch, and they kind of knew each other apparently, where they double dated before, I guess, like but they didn't really know much about each other, but they were kind of familiar with one another a little bit. And she pretty much just told Linda, was like, hey girl, like I don't really know you very well, like tell me a little bit about yourself. And she told her all about this stuff, like this is who I'm from, this is what I used to do back in the day. And they did this dirty dancing, and once they had the title of this movie, because again, she had this idea in her head, but she didn't know what to call it. And once they were like Dirty Dancing, Melinda Gottlieb literally said, that's the $1 million title right there. That's what we need to make. And so let's do that. So they're like, all right, cool. We're going to set this in 1963 because, we're old ladies kind of now, but like at the time they were younger ladies. But, they're like, okay, well, back in the 60s, that was like our heyday, right? So we're going to set it back then. Baby's going to be kind of based on, Bergstein's own life. And then Johnny's going to be based off this guy named Michael Terrace, who was a dance instructor that Miss Eleanor knew back then. Okay. While she was researching the stories and all that. So she's finished the script in the mid 80s. So the big thing that you need to know about, though, is that there was this guy at MGM who was like the head of it, right? And he was pretty much the one who was like, yeah, let's do this thing. And then guess what happens? He gets fired. And then that just put any kibosh on making this movie. Okay. So it put the script into turnaround or limbo, or what they call development hell. The same thing happened to Clueless, actually, where Amy Heckerling wrote the story, but then it got put into development hell until it got by Paramount. So that's pretty much that. So yeah, MGM was going to make this movie, and then they decided not to. Again, big mistake, huge. The fuck. Bergstein gave the script to other studios, but they were rejected. And do you know why they were rejected, Sarah? Because the patriarchy and misogyny. That's why. Like, absolutely.
Well, how dare them?
I mean, really, like, because I think it just seemed like they were thinking, like, how are we going to make this movie? How's this movie going to sell? It's about women and women's issues. And, you know, it was written by a woman. It's being produced by a woman. Like, oh, completely. I don't have any qualms saying that. I think that's exactly why they had like 40 rejections of people just not picking this up, you know? And I'm just like, for what? Like, what the hell? It was then brought to Vestron Pictures. So Vestron Pictures is no longer around, but it was one of the beautiful places that brought us such titles as Chopping Mall, one of my favorites. Oh, don't worry, we'll do an episode on it. Not you and me, but I'm doing an episode on it at some point. I love Chopping Mall. That, the horror movie Parents, some of the Wishmaster movies. So needless to say, Vestron was the home video market. Okay. And it was very much like kind of the B horror movies and shit like that. That's what they were doing. While honing their pitch to Vestron, Linda decided to cut the proposed budget in half. And so they're like, all right, we got to make this work somehow. So we're going to do this. And they ended up choosing Emile Ardolino, as the film's director. And he had never done a direct feature movie, but he was very passionate about the project after reading the script. Well, apparently he was on jury duty. And so Gottlieb, Bergstein, and Ardolino, they then presented their vision to John Persinger and the company's vice president of production, Mitchell Canold. By the end of the meeting, Persinger had greenlit the project to be the first feature for Vestron in their feature film department, and the approved movie was budgeted at a relatively low amount of $5 million at a time when the average cost of making a movie was $12 million. So they were like, all right, we're going to make this happen, because Vestron didn't have, I mean, I don't really know if they had much to lose, but you know, they took a chance on this movie, really. And then for a choreographer, Bergstein chose Kenny Ortega, who has now done movies like Hocus Pocus. He did a lot of the High School Musical movies. He directed that god-awful Rocky Horror remake on Fox, but you know, he's made a name for himself in the entertainment industry. Who he had been trained by Gene Kelly.
So the Vestron production, I mean, Dirty Dancing had to have been its biggest movie.
Oh, completely. Oh, yes, without a doubt.
So, like you said, it's the little movie that could, and you have MGM, yeah. Paramount, you have all these.
Yeah, a bunch of places just rejected this movie, and I don't know why.
Like Warner Brothers, you know, there's so many big name ones out there, and then you have this like little one, like what, like who? Like,
yeah, who had never really done.
Had to have been their biggest,
yeah, and people didn't know that right away, but you know. That's just what happens. And I don't mind saying that, no, it absolutely is because people didn't know what to do with female content. Like, they really didn't. And there's an express reason why I brought you on, because obviously it's your favorite movie, but you are also a woman. So, like, it's also important that, like, yes, this movie is so, I think it's so good at being able to show this woman's experience and to follow this girl's experience. And I don't think people knew what to do with it. I mean, and that's why all these big studios were like, no, we'll pass. But then when you see the returns on it, it's like, yeah, but it couldn't save Vestron necessarily, but you know, it is what it is. But yeah, but Kenny Ortega had been trained by Gene Kelly himself. And so for a location, they didn't find anything suitable in the Catskills. Also, that would have been expensive. So they decided to go with a combination of two different locations, one of which was Lake Lure in North Carolina, which a lot of the staff quarter stuff was shot there. A lot of their cabins were there, things like that. And then also like the pavilion that they do the ending in is done there. And then the Mountain Lake Hotel near Pembroke, Virginia, which is right around our neck of the woods. We're going to make a trip down there at some point. We will do it. And with careful shooting and editing, it made it look like it was all on one. So that was kind of nice. But yeah. Do you have anything to add about kind of like the pre-production or before casting or anything like that to add?
I don't think so, no.
Okay, gotcha. But yeah, I mean, so really it just came from this lady's mind and she ended up getting this movie greenlit and it's great. So, okay, cool. We have a movie, but we need to cast it now, right? So Ardolino was adamant that they choose dancers to kind of round the cast out. So Patrick Swayze was somebody who could also act. He didn't want to use the stand-in method that had been used in Flashdance. So they were like, no, we need to hire at least somebody who could be a good dancer, right?
There was a book, and I don't know if this was a book that Patrick Swayze wrote with his wife or if it was something that was written about him. Again, I'm so bad sometimes with books. Sometimes I'll read a book all the way through, it'll be good.
You forget all about it.
Right. But here's the thing about Patrick Swayze is his mom was a dancer.
Yes, she was a dance, had a whole dance school and everything, was like a big deal in Texas.
Yep. So he definitely had the background, let alone his mom being basically like trained, because it's like that's his mom's, livelihood. So definitely, and then wherever he went, I think he went to like some dance school, and then he met his wife that he was married till. He was married the entire time with.
He was a ballet dancer and everything. Yeah.
Till his passing, and so they met and all that, and he was into football, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Again, that's just from what I read. But yeah, he definitely, you can see it in the movies. So he definitely knows what he's doing.
And he didn't want to dance. That was the thing, is that apparently they were looking for Johnny and they were trying to figure out who to have him. And they were like, oh, Patrick Swayze. Like Eleanor Bergman was like, Bergstein. She was looking, the eyes of actors. She was like, she said, I wanted someone with these hooded lids and like all this. And she looked. She found Patrick Swayze, but on his resume it said no dancing. And she was like, shit, wait, what? God damn it. So, but they still wanted him. And the reason he didn't want to dance was because he had danced so much that he fucked his body up. And so he was like, I'm trying to get away from, doing dancing a ton because A, I can't do it very much, but B, like, I want to try and distinguish myself from being a dancer all the time. But they ended up getting him. They were able to get him, and thank God they did, because it adds a level of expertise to this movie and just a level of just beauty. I think the way he moves is just so good, and yeah, it's just so good. Like, and then also another side note about Patrick Swayze. So it was between him and Billy Zane for this role. I'm sorry, I could not have seen Billy Zane, and I love Billy Zane. Don't get me wrong, but no, like,
refresh my memory. I think I know who that is. Billy Zane.
Billy Zane is Cal from Titanic. Okay. He was the collector in Demon Knight. Yeah, he's had a very prolific career, but I think Linda Gottlieb even said, like, he looks like he could dance, like he practiced to be great at his bar mitzvah or something. But he does not have the same technique as Patrick Swayze does. And another thing about Patrick Swayze too, again, bringing it back. Oh, Billy Zane, no, I'm sorry, you cannot dance like that. Bringing it back to Patrick Swayze though, I think he does a great job in this movie, but I also think, bringing it back to Tu Wong Fu, I think that him, Wesley Snipes, and John Leguizamo, and you'll hear more about this in my episode, I'm sure I'll repeat myself, but like, I think they brought such a level of respect and to those roles, which really could have been something where they're playing these three drag queens, right? And I think they give a level of heart and humanity to these characters that I just think is so good. And Patrick Swayze is a huge part of that because I think he does great in that role too. So I think he brings a great level of heart to this role and really any other roles he did. So rest in power, dude. Like, oh my God, I love him. But anyway, so yeah, they brought in Patrick Swayze. They had other people. It was between him and Billy Zane. Like, they literally screen tested, but they were just like, nah. But then guess who else screen tested? So Winona Ryder and Sharon Stone were apparently thought of, but I don't think they were actually brought in. But a little girl by the name of Sarah Jessica Parker was brought in and screen tested along with, it was down to literally Jennifer Grey and her, and then it was down to Billy Zane and Patrick Swayze. And that brings back to the Matthew Broderick of it all, because obviously Sarah Jessica Parker is Matthew Broderick's wife. So that's why I was kind of like, I don't know if you knew that, Sarah, but there you go. And there is literal footage on the Movies That Made Us about this that literally has like Billy Zane dancing and like Jennifer Grey and Patrick Swayze dancing. Sure, Sarah Jessica was in there too. So yeah, which I mean, I will say this, I must say, I could see it with Sarah Jessica Parker. I could, but would it work as much? I don't know. But her and Jennifer Grey aren't that far off from each other to me, where I'm just like, oh yeah, either one of them could do it. But I think Jennifer Grey did a great job. And I think she ended up winning out, obviously, in the end. Really, because they just had good sexual tension. That's really what won them the role, I think. Because I really do think that they were just like interested in one another. And it was kind of hard for that. So I think that's kind of why that is. But Grey was paid about $50,000 for this role. Val Kilmer and apparently Benicio del Toro was also thought of for this role, but again, that didn't work. And he was about 34 years old, Patrick Swayze was, when he came onto this job. So he was a bit, older, obviously, but it's fine. But yeah, I mean, they ended up changing him. So apparently he was thought of as being an Italian dude at first, but they changed him to Irish because Patrick Swayze is white, very white. And then they had other people like Jerry Orbach came in. Jane Bruckner plays Lisa, the sister. Wayne Wright, who hadn't really done anything before, but ended up being on Seinfeld, Jurassic Park, all of these things. He was brought in as well. So, I mean, that's a little bit of everything, I guess. So, the mom in this movie or whatever, do you know who she is? So she was supposed to be Lynn Lipton. So that lady is like, she's been around for a while. I think she had like a whole voiceover career, if I'm not mistaken. That's great. She was supposed to be that, but ended up being Kelly Bishop. And Kelly Bishop, for those who don't know, is on, I believe, Gilmore Girls. She's the mom on there. So very well known for that. And she also won a Tony too. She was in a chorus line. So that's kind of cool. That's a little bit of how just the casting was for this movie. I mean, like, again, but a lot of these people I think were like kind of unknowns. Isn't that weird to think that like there were a bunch of people who were not necessarily super famous at this time? Like, I don't think Jennifer Grey was like super famous or anything. I mean, kind of, sort of, but like, or like Patrick Swayze hadn't really hit like that. He had been in Roadhouse, and Red Dawn and stuff, but he was kind of on the rise.
And Roadhouse was a very different movie than this.
Although
he does, when I was watching it, he does bring a little Roadhouse ruse near the end, but
yeah, no, totally. And he does it in Tu Wong Fu too, because he slaps the shit out of that guy. Anyway.
Yeah. So another thing I wanted to harp upon for just a moment or two is the atrocity that is the remake of the TV movie that was done a couple years back.
Oh, girl, wait, what? Tell me all about it.
I want to say it was 2017, so we're talking 6 years ago.
Oh, girl, did you also hear that apparently they want to make a sequel and Jennifer Grey's going to be in it? Girl,
I
girl,
did.
Why?
Well, yeah, I did, because I think when she was promoting her memoir, which I think came out last year,
right.
last year, the year before, she was talking about it, and she was thinking about getting Harry Styles.
Ugh.
I'm like,
girl, no. I'm sorry. I know you love Harry, but no.
That's her word. So if she makes the call, then that is okay. But no, I get it. But I don't even know what that's all about. Like, who knows? If anything's going to come of it, I don't know. But no, they did decide to do a TV movie.
Yeah, right.
I think it was like 2 hours long, 3 hours long. I can't remember. It was one of those things where I really wanted to boycott it and not watch it. But at the
Bastardization.
same time, I was like, I need to see what they're doing to this. And it was just not good.
It's like Rocky
It was
Horror
not
for
good.
me. It was like that Rocky Horror thing for me. Like I
I
watched
think
it
it was
and I was
on
like, no,
ABC. I think it was
yeah,
on
probably.
ABC.
Oh, girl.
And I mean, because I hate to, remakes just shouldn't be really done a lot of times, and people
I
just
get
recycle the
that.
same old stuff.
There's only so many movies that I think could be remade where the remake's actually decent, you know?
Right.
And with something like Dirty Dancing, no.
This was one of them where, and when you would hear, oh, they're going to do this, and I'm like, how dare they? Like, they shouldn't.
Who were even the leads? Who were the two leads?
I let me look real quick because I was thinking about it when I was watching it, and I was like, why
Uh-huh.
did they even do that?
Girl, I don't know.
It was
That's
rude.
horrible.
It was rude.
Ooh, I think I found it. Abigail Breslin.
Yes, I remember now.
Nothing against Abigail Breslin. Listen, I don't hate her or anything, but being baby, what the hell?
And Colt Pretz.
I don't know who that is. Deborah Messing as the mom, I guess. I assume.
Sarah Hyland is the sister
From Modern Family, yeah.
Katie
Nicole
Segal was
Scherzinger.
she was the Penny. Okay.
Okay.
And then there's the dad. He's like, I think he was in a show. He's like a TV show actor.
Oh, Bruce Greenwood, I think, right?
Yeah. So yeah, of course, I had to watch this monstrosity.
Oh no, Tony Roberts. That's who it is, right? Because isn't it Max? Isn't he the dad?
No,
Am I
Max
crazy?
is the owner. No, Max.
Oh, that was Tony Roberts. Never mind. So he was the owner. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
oh, cute.
Yeah.
That's fine.
But it's rude.
Oh, Katie Seagal is in it. You did just say that. I love that.
Yeah. Again, had to force myself to watch it just to say I watched it. And just to say they butchered it. But see, here's the thing: is would they have done this if Patrick Swayze was still alive?
No,
I don't know. They wouldn't have.
No,
really they should. So.
No. Oh, for those who don't know, Bruce Greenwood is also in Disturbing Behavior. He plays Dr. Caldecott, so that's how I know him. Yeah,
I think he was also in The Resident that show Mom watches or watched.
Oh yeah, I think so too.
I think he was like a doctor or something like that because I watched it for like a few episodes and I was like, whatever.
But he was also in the Star Trek movie. He was in the one with J.J. Abrams.
Oh, okay. But anyway, they shouldn't have done it, whatever. But I don't really know Jennifer Green. I don't really know Jennifer Grey's thoughts on the whole remake.
Probably disgusting.
Yeah. But here's the thing is you're sitting there watching it and all you can do is literally compare it to the movie. And that's all I was doing. And I was like, this is bogus. This is ridiculous what they're doing.
Disgusting.
It was disgusting.
Disgusting. I can't.
Disgusting.
Yeah, and insert that little meme here. Girl, no.
I know.
Anyway, so we're stud shitting on the remake or whatever. That's fine. That's totally okay because I am mad about it. But yeah, I mean, we already talked about like it was between Virginia and North Carolina. This was only shot, I think, in like it was 43 days, which is not much, especially for a movie of this caliber. You know,
over a month. Yeah.
A little over a month to do this. The other kind of notable things are that, like, for example, like they didn't have a whole lot of music to dance to, I don't think, like, because they couldn't get the rights to it. So like a lot of what they were dancing to, like they weren't really dancing to any like music, I don't think, from what I understand, which is kind of interesting. That's gotta be weird. But yeah, I mean, there's that. I mean, Patrick Swayze had to go to the hospital because he insists on doing his own like stunts and he like hurt himself. And again, it was bad. Not great. But yeah, so all right, cool. The movie shoots, it wraps, great. So right before Halloween 1986, it was both on time and on budget, so that's great. No one on the team though liked the rough cut that was put together though, and Vestron executives were convinced that this was going to be a flop. They even had one guy named Aaron Russo, I believe, this was in the Movies That Made Us, where he said after he watched the movie, he said, burn the negative and collect the insurance. Because he pretty much said it was shit. Like, pretty much said, but people didn't think it. Like, that's why I'm saying this is the little movie that could. Like, this is literally a movie that people were like, I don't know about it, man. Like, who even knows if this is going to be like a success, if it's going to be nothing more than like a home video release, because that's what Vestron did. Like, I don't know, man. They just didn't know. Like 39% of people who viewed this didn't realize that abortion would be a subplot. And we can get all up into that, girl, because I will say right here, right now, if I may ask, Sarah, is this the movie that you found out what an abortion was from it? If I may ask, like, is this what kind of taught you what it was, or did you know about it beforehand?
I'm not really sure. Maybe, or I can't say definitively.
Right.
Obviously that definitely was a serious part of the movie that happened. And it's not one of those things like if you watch it when you're a kid, it's gonna go way over your head. You're not gonna know.
Totally.
So I don't think that maybe I don't know. I don't distinctly have a memory going, yes, this is how I found out about that, or if I had heard about it before that. I don't know. I don't remember.
Right. No, and it's crazy because, like, literally, when you think about it, like, this is a movie that I would venture to say, if I had to, assume it, I would think that this was a lot of people's exposure to, like, this is what an abortion is, everybody. And even if you don't realize what it is at first, like, this is what that is. And for a subplot of this movie to be that in 1987, I think was a huge deal, especially being in the Reagan era and obviously, all that. And also there was a little drama with Clearasil because Clearasil was going to be like a sponsor of this movie, and they literally asked the writer, Eleanor. They said, hey, you need to go back and cut out this whole subplot. They literally said, like, we can't do this campaign with you guys if you have this in your movie. And Eleanor was like, no, fuck you. This is a huge point of the movie. It's a huge subplot of this movie, because without this subplot, you do not have the reason why Baby learns how to dance with Johnny. You don't have anything with anything. Like, you don't have anything. You don't have the sex between them. You don't have any of this stuff if you take out this subplot.
That's 100% true, because the reason of it is she has to
go get abortion. Yeah.
An abortion, which at 1963 was
illegal. Yes.
As pretty much anywhere in the United States. And I just was like reading just a little bit that at least in New York, where this is set, not where it was shot, but where it was set in New York, in the Catskills, that it didn't become legal until 1970. So they were still a couple years away from that. So
completely. Yeah. Until Roe v. Wade happened, obviously.
Right. Which was like 67 or 68. So yeah, I mean, this was definitely one of those, if the person's coming through town, you're going to get it done and we'll see what they do to you. Right. Unfortunately, that's what happened to her. But yeah, you're 100% right, because let's say she comes on vacation. She comes across the Dirty Dancing happening at the place and is exposed to it, essentially, because she's very like sheltered,
a little bit sheltered, yeah.
And then that's pretty much the basis of the plot in the first few minutes, and then you don't see Penny, and then you're like, okay, what happened to her? So let's say Penny was on the dance floor, there was no issue, there was no her needing to get an abortion. Then what are we just doing? A girl comes somewhere to because there would have, like you said, would Johnny have maybe danced with her? Like he did. Yeah, maybe he would have, because he would have been like, we're taking our stress out. This is where we come to like.
But like, you just find this girl who you take an interest in. Like, what the hell? It just doesn't make sense.
It became what it was because they had to get literally so close because of the type of dancing they were doing. And dancing is very like, anytime you watch any of the dancing shows, but especially like Dancing with the Stars, like, not especially, but like that's just one of those ones that are very popular that. People have dated off those shows. Like they dated their partner for a little bit of time, because you look at it and some of the dances they do are very intimate. Like you are like very close with one another and really have to put trust in that person that they're not going to like drop you and do whatever, even though things happen. But anyway, but yeah, so if the subplot was there and she would have been there dancing, and then she would have did the show at the other place, like again, it would have just been them doing a movie and then maybe her thinking Johnny's cute. Like, it would have been stupid. So yeah,
it would have been really dumb. It was so important.
It was definitely necessary, and from the time period it was very like important for it to happen.
I agree. Like, I
Yeah.
completely think that was important to have it in
So
there.
good for her standing her ground.
Yes, absolutely. Being the screenwriter, being like, fuck you, Clearasil. Like, I'm not cutting this out of my movie. Like, are you kidding me? Like, how can I have any integrity if I do that? Like, hell no. So I like that. And then also what's really cool about this film too is I think it also is able to show like the idea of class inequality too is really interesting because like now we're just getting into the weeds about it, which is fine with me. But like, yeah, no, I think that's really cool too because you have these yeah, I mean, like when you think about it, like the the lowest of the low, quote unquote. I mean, the people who are at the bottom of class, lower class, if you will,
Bottom of the
are the
barrel, yeah.
staff. Yeah, the staff. Because again, there's also like there's this race critique too, where it's like, yeah, a bunch of the people who work here are people of color and also just poor white folks. So again, that goes into the class thing. Again, is it great in terms of the representation for people of color? I don't know. I'm not a person of color, but it's, if anything, it's showing what the reality kind of was in 1963. This is right. This is in the middle of civil rights, if not right before it, really. So, I mean, there's that. Then you have the people who are rich, who are the Housemans, of course. And then, kind of a middle point of like the waiters in this movie who are also like, they're the sons, which none of the women are, but like some of the sons are like, you know, the sons of rich people, but they're doing this job to try to get another, they're doing this waiter job to pretty much just try to get themselves a cushy job after college, I guess, and all of that. So I don't know. Yeah, you can dig into a lot with like the class critique that it has in this movie. Also, just a little bit of the race critique as well, I'm sure, as well. Yeah, all of that kind of thing. Do you have anything to add about just like some of the themes in this movie and what they try to tackle within it, I guess?
Well, yeah, definitely the class part. He
Yeah.
even says more closer near the end of the movie, which is why it's such a good idea to watch the rewatch because sometimes you go, which part of the movie that was that from? Even though
Mm-hmm,
I've seen it so
mm-hmm.
many times. He does say that he was basically couldn't rub two pennies together, and
Yeah, he was
then
saying he was eating jujubes and all this
yeah,
because
and
yeah, being a
he was
dancer doesn't pay the
poor.
bills always.
He was poor, and then
Mhm.
he's like, there was these women putting diamonds and money in my pocket.
And having to, without saying it, probably engage in sex work too, like most likely.
Well, essentially, because they're giving him that stuff, and he's
Yeah.
like, and they're
And
running
and that was the
stuff
whole
from
thing
him.
too. Who was the guy? Who was the old guy who literally sets up his wife to like
Mo,
have, yeah, that guy?
Mo,
Yeah, Mo. He literally sets his wife up to
Mo
have
Pressman.
sex
Yeah,
with her. Like,
yeah, because they had already messed around, and
yeah.
he came in, and then, but see, I don't think. Well, I don't know. I don't know if he knew what was going on, or if he was just like, here, give her
Yeah.
some dance lessons, or if dance lessons were something else. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't
Mm-hmm.
really read too much into that. Other than the one in that movie, she was not pretty. I'm like, could you
Oh
have got
yeah.
somebody a little better looking?
It's like, I don't know, man.
She was a little rough looking. They could have got somebody a little bit more attractive. Um. Anyway, sorry, it's rude. But anyway,
Whatever.
but anyway, another thing with the class thing is too is like
Yeah.
it's more actually more in the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
Funny enough, is Penny. It says she got kicked out by her mom.
Yeah, true.
So she's like, I was 16. So what are you gonna do when you're 16? Like if you're good at something,
Right.
you can try that. So she came from why did her mom kick her out? Who knows? I don't know. But
Right. Like, was she
it was
being
the
fast, quote unquote? Was she being too adult for her
I
mom,
would
you know?
assume
And
she,
yeah,
it was in the 50s she got kicked out because if it was 63, she couldn't have been like 18. She was probably in her like early 20s. So it was probably
true.
like late 50s she probably got kicked out. So who knows what was
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah.
So
No,
you can definitely
totally.
tell that they were definitely on the lower portion and how Johnny and her knew each other
Right.
before that. They grew up with each other, as evidenced in some of the lines that are said. But yeah, there's that, and I was also thinking about race part of it a little bit too, because when they
Yeah.
have the part where she comes in and the cousin brings her in.
Mm-hmm.
God, I can't remember his name now, but yeah, the guy when they
Oh
come
yeah,
in
that guy.
and they have
He's carrying the
physically,
watermelons with baby.
yeah,
Yes.
and so she's literally like walks in and is like introduced to like Dirty Dancing because she's like, what? Like we're
Yeah.
just used to like the waltz and tango and things
The
that are like
foxtrot and all
bold,
that. Yeah.
right? And I was like looking here, so there's like all these different couples, but then I saw like a white man and a black woman dancing, and I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, like
Well, and then also getting into like the fact that one of the main guys on this, the main entertainment of this film or at this resort is like a black man who is
mm-hmm,
like kind of a,
to
whether or not he's a
African things, yeah,
caricature or not, but it's like
yeah,
he is this guy who is he's entertaining the white folks, you know what I mean? And that can
right.
be like,
But I thought about when I saw
yeah,
them dancing because obviously, like the dancing they're doing is very close and
yes, yes,
sensual in a sense, if you want to say that. But I'm like, thinking about it, like that, I don't think you really would have seen that much in the early 60s just because of
hmm,
where we were in that part of time in America. Yes, things were definitely, there was still a lot of out there that probably that was not so good for
right,
the people of color. But I just thought that was, I had noticed that before, like watching it, how there was, that. But it's like,
hmm,
it wasn't like they just made everybody white and
yeah,
it was just like that. And yeah, they did have like a black couple, but they did do like a white and like a black. Not saying I don't know if they might have been a couple, but I don't
yeah,
really know. But how it's like that was good. They showed that, or maybe that was them showing like, hey, like
yeah,
that part is not segregated and they
yeah,
all like they are at least in that aspect of the where they're
yeah,
at and maybe that part of the where they're staying
yeah.
is is good, like it's not
I,
in
I
other
think if
parts.
anything, what it's
And also
showing, yeah,
it was northern. I think a lot of
yeah.
the worst stuff was southern stuff, so
Yeah, no, I totally can understand that. And it's just showing really that like, yeah, no, I mean like Kellerman's as a whole is very, very white. You have
mhm.
like the one person of color who's the big entertainer who is the musician pretty much. And then the rest of the staff who is, made up of like the dance staff and then also some of the other staff as well, but they get to have and cut loose in their way. And yeah, that can be made up of like different mixed folks of like both white and black, so yeah, I think there's that's just also coming from her experience as well. I mean, it's just so fascinating to me with all of that. So I mean, yeah, this movie has, needless to say, it came out, so it got released, and I think what ended up happening with the release of the movie was really just the fact that this movie came out. I think they did a test screening of it once it was all said and done, and people were watching it. And I believe it was in the Movies That Made Us. They said that they had this movie, and at the end of it, there was just like this standing ovation. People really loved it. And once the movie got released, then it showed how much this film actually really worked, and how it was something that people responded to. And I think there's a reason. I think there's multiple reasons for that. I would say mainly, I think music plays a big part in it too. It's just all this old music that at that time people could reminisce about a little bit and enjoy, you know. I think that was something. And you and me have kind of maybe said this before too, but like, when we were growing up and we were with our grandparents and stuff, and they were older, obviously born in the 30s, we definitely listened to oldies growing up, and a movie like this is kind of perfect for something like that. So that's one thing. But yeah, I
uh,
mean, this movie just kind of was a sleeper hit, if anything.
Side note, I saw Daphne's tail in their thing.
Yes, yes. We're on Zoom right now, and our animals are just attacking us.
Yeah, because Callie's looking at me right now.
Yeah, the
Um,
dog.
yeah, the music. I mean, seriously, the first thing I wrote on my notes is music is chef's kiss. I mean,
It's
the
really
music in
good.
this is 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 great. And yes, with our grandparents, our grandpa used to drive us around and had the
Mhm.
oldie station on. So we heard, the Temptations, we heard
All of it, yeah.
Rolling Stones, we heard Beatles, all these different ones. But a lot of these songs that in this movie are one of those groups that had like maybe two hits, but they didn't
Oh
have like
yeah.
Temptations had a lot of hits. Like Temptations
Oh,
made a
completely.
lot
Yeah,
of
yeah,
songs.
yeah.
But like there was a lot of these ones that, oh yeah, that person sang that song, and I remember it because
Hmm.
it's an oldie song. But like they didn't really, not saying they didn't have other hits. I don't want to say that,
Right,
but
right.
you know, it's like, because we weren't around in the 50s and 60s to really listen to that, so they could have had albums that were great, but you sometimes only hear like a big single or something like that.
Yeah.
So listening to these songs, I definitely
Well,
listen to
it's
these songs.
funny. I just saw this on my
It
notes.
definitely made me think of the
Yeah.
oldies things and how, and I think it's another reason why I like it so much
Mm-hmm.
is, it just it I love memories, and it makes me
Mm-hmm.
think of any type of oldies type music makes me think of my grandparents, and
Yeah.
whether it be hearing it in a movie or hearing it whatever. So I definitely appreciate the oldies because of that reason. And
Sure.
but also there was three songs that I also have in my notes that
Mm-hmm.
were not the 50s. They were
Yeah.
made in the 80s that
And that's what's really interesting too with this. It's supposed to be a period piece of the
that were in the
60s,
movie.
but they definitely had songs that were from the 80s a little bit, but it's fine. This whole world that has been built, it's mostly in the 60s, but yes, there are some 80s songs in there. It's fine.
But
It's all
it
good.
works. I mean,
It
it's kind of
works.
funny. You have like the mashed potato, like do the you have that song,
Yeah.
and then you have like other ones, whatever it may be.
Well,
I just
I
can't
was
think of
going
it off
to
the top of my
say
head.
in my notes, this movie actually was a big reason why the song Do You Love Me came back into like
Yeah,
popularity, where it's the Do You Love Me? And I can really move to you. Yeah, it's that one. So,
yeah,
like, people, it was a popular song back then, but like, yeah, because the whole thing is like,
yeah,
Do you love me now that I can dance? And it's so funny how that kind of worked
yeah.
anyway. But yeah, but the three songs
Um,
you're referring to, of course, are I guess one that was done by our lead, Patrick Swayze, right? He also had a song on here.
well, in order of appearance, it's "Hungry Eyes" by Eric Carmen,
Yes, yes.
and that song came out. I want to say in '80s. I want to say it came out in '87. You could fact check
Probably something
me.
like that, yeah.
It probably came out right around the time of the movie.
It did.
And it still hits now. I listen to that song.
It literally came out like in November as a single, but it was featured in this
Yeah,
movie. That's how it got
yeah.
known.
And I listen to it now, 30 some years later. And I mean, not that I listened to it back in '87, but because I wasn't born yet. But, I've listened to it all this time, and
Oh
I
yeah.
have it on my phone and I hear it on the radio. And it's just like, it's such a good song. So there was
It
that
is
one.
really
That
good.
was the. And then the second order of appearance is She's Like the Wind, which
Mm-hmm.
is
Which is
by
written by Patrick Swayze and performed by him.
Yes, which is so funny because, well, not so funny, but when that came out, because it's literally like the last 10 minutes of the movie is
Mm-hmm.
that song comes in, and you hear it, and then you're like, okay, and like first watch, like actually multiple watches, I never knew that was him,
I
and
know,
then
right?
I it came, you know, to my knowledge at some point. I either read about it or I was told about it, whatever, and I'm like, are you kidding me?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, that is amazing. And I was like, what can't this man do? And so it's awesome that he
Yes.
performs that. And I think there's like a lady that like a woman he's like singing.
Stacy Weidlitz is the
Yeah,
name.
that is like the female counterpart of it. But yeah, it's so
Mm-hmm.
good. And the
It went to
last one
number
is the
3 in 1988, so it was
wow. Okay.
popular. There you go.
And then the last one that was made was I've Had the Time of My Life, which again
Yes.
is a great duet by
Mm-hmm.
um Bill Medley. Shame for
Yep.
his name. Yeah, Bill Medley and Jennifer Warnes, I think her name is.
There you go, Sarah. There you
Yeah,
go.
and Jennifer Warnes was also she had also did the one song with Joe
Love
Cocker
lifts up where we belong. Yeah, up where we belong.
and An Officer and Gentleman, which is our mom's favorite movie.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
she definitely has a great voice, and their voices together was really nice. And it's I hate to say it, but I love this movie so much. But my favorite absolute part of the movie is like the last bit of it. Like
Of course.
I can't like I have to discuss that for a minute, but not yet.
Not quite yet. We'll get into it.
Yeah, but it's so good. It's such a good scene. But yeah, so those are the three movies that were definitely not made in the 50s or 60s or what
Right,
have
right,
you,
right.
but
The
they
songs.
just work so good for the movie. They look so good.
No, totally. I mean, music is a huge part of this movie, and I mean, there's a big reason why, and that comes from Eleanor. That comes from her. I mean, she literally fought for this music because she was like, "This is such a huge part of this movie. Like, we need to have the songs." And I get that it's expensive, and I understand, but we need to have these things Otherwise, this story's not going to work as well. So good
I
for her
really do
fighting
think
on
that.
it.
I do think that because I really do think, and like I said earlier, when you were like, why do you love this movie so much? Like, what draws you to it? And really, like, the music is really what makes a lot of the movie is, other parts of it are good, but it just makes the music plays a really big part of it.
Oh, it
And
completely does. It's a
I'm
separate
really glad that they
thing.
were able to get, I'm sure they have trouble with the actual, like, the 80s part of the
Probably
songs.
not.
But I mean, I'm sure probably getting those songs from 30 years ago was probably a little bit of
Yeah. No,
a
totally.
thing.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I think
So
this
good.
movie has had such a interesting legacy. I mean, obviously, like, so of course, like the resort where Dirty Dancing was shot, it no longer has a lake, unfortunately. So the lake does not exist where Baby and Johnny like are practicing her lift. Because thanks global warming, I don't know. It hasn't been there since 2006, so you can't see the lake there. But it is still like the place is still there, the gazebo is still there, the lodge itself is still there, and it literally looks the same. Like they had something in the movies that made us that literally Lisa this Linda Gottlieb, she went back and kind of looked at stuff, and yeah, I mean, like they have a whole stone there with that's in memory of Patrick Swayze. She went back and saw like the gazebo, like the dining room, and she was like, oh my god, it has not changed in like 30 years. Like it's crazy. And they do things like have little dance lessons, guided tours, film screenings, things like that there. Of course, they also have it set up where they have different things that like this is Baby's cabin and this is like the gazebo and like all these
I was
things,
just about to say that
all of that.
that would be something I'd really want to go see because it's like my favorite movie, and
Oh,
I would love
completely.
to go see that. And not having known about really any of that stuff, that they do stuff like that.
Yep.
They do weekend, like themed
Yep.
weekends where you can do dances and watch the
Hmm.
movie and then
You
do
can
that. It's really
pay to
cool.
live your Dirty Dancing fantasy if you want to over
Yeah.
at this place, which I'm sure brings them a fair amount of business. I would
Oh
totally
yeah.
do it. Oh, I also think this is funny. This is at least as of 2018. That in the beginning, because they say that Baby's going to go off to college and she's going to Mount Holyoke College, which at one time I think might still be it's still a women's college in Massachusetts. But apparently at Mount Holyoke, which is still a college today, they actually screened this for incoming first years because of the line "Baby starting Mount Holyoke in the fall." So even in 2018, they had a little article that said this is something that they do, and I want them to do that. I think that's so cute.
I didn't know they do that. I had no idea they did that. That is awesome.
That is so cute. And I love that because it's a women's
I love
college
it.
too. And obviously, what's cool about this film too is that they were trying to. This movie is PG-13. It was supposed to be an R. It was supposed to be. They had to take a few things out because they wanted to get it to they wanted to make it PG-13. So they took out a few things, they kept the abortion in there, all that stuff, but they were able to get this PG-13 movie and they wanted it to be targeted to teens. But what was crazy was that it was more so adults who ate this up. And that is why I think it had all of this it had this cross kind of pollination of, yes, it is supposed to be a teen movie, and ultimately it's about a teen girl who's just coming out of high school, going to college, whatever. But yeah, I think there is this kind of interesting divide of like it was made and kind of targeted to teens, but adults ate this shit up too, which I think is really cool because of how timeless this story is and the things that you could kind of attach yourself to. But yeah, so I mean, we've gone over a lot of stuff anyway, but I guess Sarah, if you had to, in your own expert opinion on this film, if you had to tell somebody who's never seen this movie before what Dirty Dancing is about, how would you describe it to somebody?
I would describe it as a coming of age film romance, basically a coming of age romance story, drama romance. I think that would be the best way to say what type of genre it is definitely a coming of age film with romance and drama. In a nutshell, if I had to put it in a few sentences, girl goes on vacation with her family. She lives a pretty sheltered life, I would say. being the when I say sheltered, like her dad's I'm
She's
assuming her mom. I'm assuming her mom is a
a
stay-at-home mom,
wife, yeah, and then her dad is a
mom, like,
doctor.
and her dad is a doctor, so I'm sure he makes a lot of money. So obviously, like, his family's well off. So I'm sure that her and her sister are definitely like they lead, like,
They're
they probably
privileged.
they're privileged for sure. And so they have a privilege. They can go to the Catskills and stay for two. What does the mom say? 2 or 3 weeks. Oh, 3 weeks here. It'll feel like whatever.
Almost a
Come
month, I
here.
think it was. Like literally, they're there
Yeah,
for a couple of weeks. Must be
yeah.
nice.
So it's like some people can't even get like a few days, and it's like must be nice. So it's like anyway. So I would say she's very privileged and sheltered in her life before she comes here, and she is then exposed and is shown Dirty Dancing, which is something you would definitely not see. I don't know where they were from. Like, I don't know if they were in New York or what state they lived in, or if that was ever really
I think they were
mentioned.
from New York.
Yeah, let's just say they were. And so, that's something that was like something she wasn't aware of, because like the look on her face when she walks in, she's like, so it's that, it's coming of age film. She's exposed to this, she sees it, and she's like, okay, like, what is this? Like, it intrigues her. Like, again, it's coming of age, so she's like seeing this, like, oh, okay, like, what's this all about? And then the plot happens with Penny having to get an abortion because basically her livelihood is dancing, and you can't be 8, 9 months pregnant with a baby and trying to do the dances she is doing, for how they pay the bills. Is they basically are doing dance lessons, and you really can't have a baby belly in the middle of a dance lesson, and all that, because they should be lean and they should be athletic and all that. So there's that. So that subplot comes in, and then, baby's like Miss Fix It, like they say it, like, oh, she's Miss Fix It. She tries to, get everything, change the world, or she tries to just make sure everybody's okay and everything's better. And she learns these dances. Again, coming of age, this is something totally out of her element. She's like, I can't do it, and they're encouraged to do it, to do the dancing. And obviously, over the time of being together, and how we were saying earlier, how dancing can be very intimate, she is falls for Johnny, and Johnny vice versa falls for her. And then, and then the drama part of it is just kind of how everything works out, like, the Penny situation, and then them her being kind of in a way being ashamed of Johnny, because
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say she's ashamed of him, but again, the class thing comes into play, where
Yeah.
she's from this rich family. He's, a couple years older than
Not.
her,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Exactly.
he's not well off, and that's a big thing back in that day. And just how it tears him apart a little bit. But and then at the end, they basically are just like, they realize they love one another, and it's a happy ending for all. But
Yeah.
essentially, that was a very butchered part of it. But
No, you're fine.
but yeah, definitely coming of age. It's a teen. She's like, she's 17. I think they say she's,
Yeah.
about to be an adult. She's at 17. Summer. It's all kinds of stuff happening, and she meets an older guy. Not, we were saying, I don't think it's too out of pocket. I mean, he
Yeah.
probably was a few years older than her, but I don't think it wasn't like, ugh, like nasty. Um,
Yeah, I think we're
I don't
supposed
think
to
he was in
assume that he's in
30s. Yeah,
his, yeah, even though he was technically older, like the actor is,
like
but
in
like I think Johnny
right,
is supposed to be a bit of a younger dude, but and people want
right.
to have that criticism or whatever, which I totally understand.
If they really
Um,
want to play into it, but it's
but
like
it's
they can do
also
it for
not.
anything.
I don't find it to be that predatory or anything like
Right.
that.
It doesn't feel
Either
that way.
it doesn't feel that way, and also it's like, she's also literally 17 going into 18, and
Yeah.
he's supposed to be a little bit older than her, and also at first he's also just like, ew, like I don't like you like that, and he falls for her, you know what I mean? But like,
Right. Because of
yeah,
right, because of who she is as a person. Because yes, she's 17, but she's definitely mature. Like, she's not like a
she
childish
is,
17. She's
but she's,
like a
but he's like, no, like you're not, like you're trying to be cool, but it's not
right,
working, girl. Okay.
right. So yeah, that's how I would explain it. And yeah, again, it's just there's so many, just it's just so good. I did want to touch on that, when Penny is found.
Yes, yes.
And actually, I wanted to say one other little thing that I just thought of. Um, this is for like the sad part, like, not sad, but it is sad. But they're dancing in the kind of like the beginning of it, and
Yeah.
Penny's wearing that pink dress, so pretty. I really
Hmm.
enjoyed that. The like the straps, all that. I was like, I always
Oh yeah,
appreciate some
Cynthia
of
Rhodes
the
killing it.
dresses that are worn. Yeah, she really is. So anyway, so I wanted to say that real quickly, but anyway, so after that, when the cousin tells her like, hey, like she's knocked up, and then she was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, like baby, unfortunately assumes it's Johnny's, and it's not, because they were a couple when they
Mm-hmm.
were teenagers, but they're just friends. They're just like really they're best
Yeah,
friends.
they're
They're really
dance
close
partners.
friends. They're
They're
dance
not
partners, right?
romantic partners. Yeah.
Right. Like they tried it, it didn't work, whatever. And so baby's like, okay, like there's got to be a way around this. Well, not a way around this, but like there's got to be a solution to this. And then she finds out who the
Mm-hmm.
party is that got her pregnant, and it's Robbie, which is
Yeah.
a piece of shit.
He is such a, let me tell
And
you something. I watched this movie on Canadian Netflix because that was the way I could watch it for free, technically, I guess. Anyway, but like I watched it, and as soon as he came on screen and he was interacting with her, I was like,
you
he's a
got the ick.
creep. I got
Yeah,
the ick, dude. It was
the ick.
like
He gave
he
you the
just
ick. I
was,
know.
I don't know. It just was like, ugh, he's
Right.
gross.
Well,
Like I did not like it.
They show him in the beginning.
That
They
guy
show him like,
also, by the way, is dead now, I think, if I'm not
yeah,
mistaken. He
yeah, he
died a
is. He
long time
died.
ago, but
I
yeah,
think he died like a couple years after the movie came out.
I
Yeah,
think he did too. Yeah.
yeah. Um, I read like an article, not an article, but I read something like, because Jerry Orbach has been passed away, and obviously
Mm-hmm.
the guy, like the Max guy, like these people that were in like these older movies back in the day, like they were older in '87, so of
Oh
course
yeah,
they
yeah,
probably weren't
yeah.
going to live much longer after that. But they just said how kind of like some of the people has passed over, and obviously Pedro Swayze has been
Mm-hmm.
passed for some time
Well, the
now.
director passed as well, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, and then but I do know that Robbie, I think he might have died in like the '90s. He
He
didn't
did the early
he didn't.
90s.
It wasn't too much. It wasn't. He probably didn't even see like the 10-year anniversary of this. It's probably how
Oh no,
like
no.
early he died. But anyway, yeah, But they show him. They introduce him in the beginning of the movie, basically when they're
Mm-hmm.
coming in for dinner, and he's a waiter. He's all dressed up nicely.
Right.
Looking professional, and he's supposed to be going to med school.
Yes.
And so of course, we have this doctor coming in with his family, like, oh, like,
Mm-hmm.
and so his dad's like, oh, that's great, like, I'm so that's awesome, like,
Oh,
that's
good
great
for
for
you.
you,
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
exactly, and then then he's trying to like kind of flirt with her sister,
yeah.
and I'm
Yes.
like, okay, fine, I get it, whatever, it is what it is, he's like a young guy and she's like a young woman, so they're similar age, I get it. But then you're like, yeah, he gives you the egg. And then when, the whole situation happens and she goes, it's Robbie the creep, which is funny because they literally said Robbie the creep. She was like, oh, like I know, like he has the money, and she was like, he knows he I told him, like
Yeah.
I we
He knows I'm pregnant. He's not
he
going
was
to help me.
she was like, because Penny does say in part of it, like, we started something because obviously probably working at the same place, things happen.
Yeah.
And she was like, I thought he really cared about me and he really loved me, but
Right.
really he just wanted to score. And she got pregnant. And, so obviously she goes, and then of course he's like, well, she probably bought every guy in the place, which I'm sure she didn't do because
No.
he's just being an asshole. And,
Ooh.
so I know, right? So, he's trying to back on Lisa. He's trying to back on baby sister, like
Yeah, and
first and
even
foremost. So
Lisa, for as wonderful, and she's not dumb, but like she's just like the sister who
naive,
like
naive
naive,
is a good
like
word. Yeah,
yeah, because she goes with him, and even she's just like, oh yeah, no, like she gets out of
yeah,
there, which I
yeah,
had to
and
clarify with you. I was like, wait, what happened to Lisa? Wait, what?
yeah,
Like, because I was confused for
yeah,
a minute, but then you
right,
explained it. I was like, okay, good.
right. So baby comes to him and is like, look, like you, you did this, like you need to like you need to help basically,
Yeah, you need
and
to
he
take
was like,
responsibility.
fuck no, and she poured the water down on
Oh,
his
it's
pants. I was
so
like,
good.
I
Oh, it's
said, I
so
know
good.
that's right. I literally wrote that
Oh,
in my
and
notes. I was like,
you know what's so good
she poured
too?
water on his pants as she should. I said, that's right.
Oh, and you know what's great too about that too is that because the Kellermans love the Housemans so much, she's able to get away with that shit, and she knows it. And I'm like, you
Right,
know what? There you go. Use that privilege. Use the privilege that you have because
right.
the Kellermans are so up your dad's ass and they love him so much that he's not even going to say
He'll
shit.
look past it. Right.
He'll look past it. He will look
So,
past it because he loves you and your family. Like
right.
I think that was such a serve.
Exactly. Such a serve.
It's so
And I was like,
good.
that, I know that's right. And I was like,
No,
that's,
but it's
she's like,
true.
and
And
because she was like, stay away
it's
from,
yeah.
she was like, stay away from me, stay away from my sister, or I'll have you fired. I'm like, that's right. And you pour it.
It
But
she just knew. She was like, I'm gonna say this because you know you're wrong.
Right. So
So good.
there was also the part where I think you had just mentioned it a few. Well, you didn't really mention it, but you kind of like
Right.
skirted around it. Where he was trying to mess around with the sister, and she's like,
Yes.
"Get off me!" Like
Which is in the
I'm
beginning
not.
of the movie, like closer to the beginning.
Yeah, and it's like that just shows you right there how much of a jerk he is.
Yeah, no, he's such
And
a jerk, and just like, ugh, he just gives me the
ugh,
ick. And
he gives me the hiccup.
that actor did a very good job because, ugh, he just makes me,
Right. And
no,
then just the cringe parts of him, and then as I'm saying in the movie, how they fell for each other. Well, not him, but Johnny and Baby fell for each other. And she comes to like the slums, as they call it, where the dancers
mm-hmm.
and staff stay, a bit, basically. And so Robbie's coming there and sees Baby there. He's like, I picked the wrong sister. And I'm like, oh. And Johnny's like, oh, hell. And that's where he shows some of his Roadhouse moves. I was like, I know that's right.
Hell yeah, yeah.
And I was like, that's right. And so like that part happens, and then and
Mm-hmm.
then like Lisa, like a couple scenes next, she's like, oh, I think I'm gonna like do it with Robbie, and I'm like, ew. And then
Mm.
Baby like, no, because your Baby has actually experienced like it now, because part of the movie is Johnny and Baby have sex,
Yes,
um
yes.
and all that. So she's experienced it. She's like, you should with somebody you love, and she like clearly doesn't love Robbie. And she's like, well, whatever, like, I'll just do it. And then he fucking catches her with the gross ass lady,
Oh yeah, that lady who just was like trying to get it. Ooh,
which I thought was so,
yeah.
which I thought was so funny, because again, they were like in like the quarters, like staff quarters, and like they had a towel in the thing. I was like, why would you even open that door when a towel's on the like fucking
Oh girl,
knob?
I don't know, man. And that's the thing you were saying earlier, how
I was
you
like,
think this woman's kind of skeezy or whatever. And the thing is
very
that I mean,
skeezy.
like, she is kind of like shown to be just like, I don't know. She's kind of built to be like, oh hey, like she's like the wife who was probably cheating on her husband with some guys. So
Right.
like that is how
100%,
she's
yeah.
kind of framed a little bit. So I kind of get it.
But
But
then I
yeah,
also
I mean,
love
yeah.
at the end too, like literally like the last 2 minutes of the movie is when like Dr. Houseman gets Robbie's attention. It's like, hey, like he basically wants to give him like a check to help him out
Mm-hmm.
with medical school. And he was like, hey, he's like, thank you so much. He's like, and thank you for understanding with the Penny situation. He was like, and I was
Right.
like, oh, like Daddy didn't know that he's the one that got Penny in trouble. Him thinking it was Johnny all along when it wasn't.
Right.
And him going like, fuck this, I'm tearing this thing up, like fuck you.
Like
Like
you're
this
not
is
gonna get
it.
my money.
Like he had his arc where like everybody's like, oh, he's fine, and then he got like his downfall. It was great.
Yeah, because he's trash. Like
He's
exactly.
trash, trash, trash. Oh, I mean, yeah,
Trash, garbage. Anyway, so
garbage.
yes, but so we kind of moved into it anyway, but like, do you have any kind of like standout scenes or anything like that from this movie that you want to talk about? I guess I'll go first since you were talking for a little bit, but
Sorry.
I must say, no, you're fine, totally. This is your favorite movie, girl. I want to hear about it, but I gotta say, I think that scene where she pours the water on Robbie is so good. Oh, it was such a serve. Ooh,
Iconic.
it's iconic. Like it's just so good, and it just shows that Baby knows exactly what her position here is, and like she knows she can get away with it, and she knows he deserves it. So that's great. It's that I love the scene where it's sad, I guess, but like I like the scene where the abortion has gone wrong and Penny is at the staff's quarters and everyone's so worried about her, and where Baby just kind of goes into the mode of like, well, my dad's a doctor and I need to get help and I'm supposed to help people, and she gets her dad to come. And you know what, Dr. Houseman, if anything, he took that Hippocratic oath and he is there to do no harm. So he really came through with that. And just
And
the way that he handles that situation and how he also handles the after with Penny, I think is so fierce. It's so good. Like,
yeah, for
yeah.
sure. I don't say that I don't like that scene. It is I wouldn't say that it is one where I'm like, oh, definitely memorable. But it's
Yeah,
just a little bit. It's just a little hard to watch. It's a little. I
I
mean, not
get
that you
it.
really see anything. You don't see anything crazy, but
No,
it is.
no.
It's sad because you know what happened. But it's real. It's real. Like it's
Yeah.
fucking real.
I think that's why
Like
I
it goes
like
there.
it.
It
I think
goes
that's
there like Degrassi.
like Degrassi. If you don't already know, I'm on a
Yeah,
Degrassi rewatch. But yes. No, but
I had
it's
to put that
I
in there.
and I think that's
But
why I like it, is just really like,
I thought I thought
Yeah.
about this when I was watching it. When that happens, she gets her dad, and he's like, "Is everything okay? Like, is it like your mom or your sister?" And he's like, "No, it's fine. Like, whatever." And then he realizes because baby had, so obviously they don't do abortions for free, so like they need the money,
Yeah.
and Robbie's
She gets
not
the
putting
money
out the
from
bill.
her dad.
She gets the money from her dad, and he's like, "What's it for?" And she was like, "Well, like, I can't tell you that because it's illegal and
Yeah.
whatever." So and
But
then
he
he's
asks,
like, "Is
like,
that what
is it
my?"
illegal? And she says, no, daddy. And I love
It's a
that too.
fucking lie to him, but fucking lied. But it's like I get it. And then he
Yeah.
was like, "Is that what my money paid for?" Essentially, when they were going back. But I thought about it when he runs up to the quarters to go and to take care of her. I'm like, what? Realistically, because she said, he's like, "I tried to get in when the person was in there, and he's like, I couldn't do it. He's like, I heard her screaming. I tried to get
Mhm.
in, I couldn't do it." And I'm like, agony. Thank God they didn't show that part or anything like that because that would have been really tough to
It's
watch.
not this kind of movie. It's not that kind of movie.
Yeah, but he basically said like I really tried to get in there to help her, and but she was like, "Don't call 911, don't call the cops or whatever." And it's like, okay, so what if the doctor like what if he wasn't there? Like, could she have like she could have died?
That's the thing, and that's the whole conflict of it, is that it just so happens that her, baby's dad is a doctor. Because
Yeah,
yeah, in the regular world, that's exactly what it is, Sarah. It's movie magic. It's the thing of like, because
exactly, and
she probably would have died. Like, let's be real here.
yeah,
Like,
because
she probably would have.
right, because I was just going to mention something real
Because
quick.
she would have gotten canned. Let's be real here. If she didn't already die, she would have gotten canned because she brought the police. And also, this is 1960 something.
Right,
The
it's
911.
illegal. So you,
I don't. Yeah, it would have been bad. Like, that is why, like, they were very lucky that this will happen. That's what movies are. But like, yeah,
right, of course,
it's crazy to think
but
that, because yes, like, she like literally would have died if it
yeah,
wasn't for Dr. Hausman.
because again, the guy was a fucking quack essentially, and
Right.
um
He didn't know actually how to do a safe abortion. So
and so she really could have been in a world of trouble and really could have led to death if Dr.
mhm.
House wasn't there. Because then afterwards, he comes and checks on her like after everything and makes sure she's
Yeah.
healing and everything like that. And he was like, he says I'm gonna be fine. I can even have children because some of these things that happened back, in the who even knows how long ago,
Mhm.
but we'll say like the
Long,
40s,
long.
50s, and 60s. Um, some people would get their it'd be bad and they would not be able to
Mhm.
have any more kids. So that would happen one time for them. They'd get an
Yeah.
abortion and then they were not able to get they fucked them up basically so bad
Yeah.
inside that they could not physically their bodies couldn't handle carrying other children. So yes, it's so lucky that they had what they
Mhm.
had there and that was worked out. But Dirty Dancing is a movie that has it in there. It doesn't again go very much into it, but you can see like how she basically got herself in a bad way with
Yeah.
the person who performed it because they definitely were
I,
it's not good.
I, I think it handles, I think it even, in my notes, it does have that this movie is kind of seen
But
as
unfortunately, that's how
a,
desperate they were.
yeah, no, totally. Yeah, no, and for sure. And, but I think this movie has even kind of like, it is recommended. So in 2021 in October, amid a dispute over abortion in Texas, the magazine The Hollywood Reporter recommended the film as one to revisit on abortion in the cinema industry. And so the one writing for the Hollywood Reporter highlighted the writing of Eleanor Bergstein in this. And yeah, I think I mean there's plenty of movies that it's like this one I think handles it really delicately. One that's different that I actually really like and I recently watched because I like election and I wanted to see what this guy had done before, and he did Citizen Ruth. Have you ever seen or know of Citizen Ruth by any chance? It is a movie that has Laura Dern in it. She plays a drug addict, huffer lady, like unfit mother, who is taken in by Red from that '70s show and his like family of like Christians. And it's kind of a biting satire of like both pro-choice and pro-life people on this argument, because Ruth, played by Laura Dern, she gets herself pregnant and now it's a whole thing, and it's really kind of lampooning both parts of the abortion argument. So that's a different movie than it has. But I think this one is definitely it's this and like Fast Times at Ridgemont High. I think both handle this subject matter really well. And it's something we have to talk about because it's a part of the movie. So, it's a big thing. But yeah,
Right.
that's one of my. It's a scene I think I like because it feels real and it just feels like there is stakes in this. And the other scene I really like too is where because it's so I don't know if I cried at it necessarily, but ooh, girl, it is heartbreaking a little bit is where Jennifer Grey baby goes to her dad and he's on the gazebo and all that and she says, did I disappoint you, daddy? Like, I'm sorry. And like, ooh, it's good. Ooh, they were good. And then I like the end. I mean, like, the end's cool too. I like it. I like that Lisa gets with like the little cousin. I hope they end up together. I think that's so cute.
I would say that obviously the whole movie is my favorite, but there's definitely a couple scenes that I love. I wouldn't actually say my first one, my most favorite scene in the entire movie. I'll just start with that is the very end. When they do the dance, that's the start of it. When they put I've had time of my life on, and he goes, "I'm going to do this dancing, my kind of dancing with a partner," and then says her full name because he finds out what her actual name is because her real name's not actually Baby. Shocking to everybody. And just the way the dance is, I love her dress and that and the little twirl. It's so good. I love it. I was watching. I was like, I just love this part. But when they do the lift, it's my absolute. It's literally like the last 5 minutes, and them bringing her down, like he's on the ground and or no, not on the ground. He's on the floor, and then the dancers help like bring her down, and she does the jump, and it's just perfect. Like it's my favorite. I mean, it's so close to the end of the movie, but I just every time I watch it, I just get like this little like
That's totally
fun,
fair.
like I just get like a happy feeling. Like it just I love that part of the movie. Like there's just certain parts of movies and shows that you just know are coming, and you just like you're like, oh, I love that part. But this one, like I love that part, and I know I'm sure it's probably a lot of people's favorite parts, but I absolutely love that part. It's my favorite scene in the entire movie. You have to pretty much watch the entire movie to get to it. And at that point, you've already seen the whole movie. But yeah, it's so good. So I love the lift. I mean, it just was like, executed perfectly and great. Another part I like is like the Hunger Guys scene when they're doing like the basically that's kind of like I feel like that's their way of showing like them kind of coming together and getting closer is them doing the rehearsals
It's building
and
the tension, the sexual tension
right,
between them.
exactly. So it's got a great song behind it. It's great. And then you see all the montage, I guess you said what you call it. Oh, so Hungry Eyes is
Hungry
the
Eyes,
other.
yeah.
Yeah, Hungry Eyes was the good part, the showing how their relationship is developing. I also think it's a funny part where he does he's teaching her she's stepping on his feet, and she's
Mm-hmm.
learning, and that's funny, and but when he does the part where he's like putting his hand like down her like side, and she keeps
Mm-hmm.
laughing,
Yes.
that was very much annoying Patrick Swayze back in
Yeah,
back
that
then.
was real. Yeah.
It was very real where he's like rolling his eyes at her. He's like, come on, like we got to get this down. Like we've only got a little couple days to get this taken care of and perfected and all that. And so that was just a funny part. But yeah, I definitely like that part.
Yeah.
The lift, I mean, yeah, the lift is my favorite. The Hungry
Very
Eye
good.
scene's great. The scene that you said, the gazebo scene, is definitely a touching part of it
It's good.
because she and her dad had such a close relationship, and
Mm-hmm.
she grew up, and she's not like the little girl anymore that he was so used to. That
Mm-hmm.
they had to have like a heart to heart, and because he knows like what she's done. He knows that she was that he's lied to her, or she's lied to him, and all that. He's like, who are you? Like, I don't even know you anymore, basically like that. And it's just like, it's a touching scene. And yeah, I mean, I mean, the whole thing's dancing. You know what else I really like? I really like the beginning of it too. Like when they're playing Be My Baby and they're
Yeah.
doing like the title scenes. And I
Yeah, the
like,
title sequence.
I always like that. I mean, it's obviously like the very first part. Like you hear the do, 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 and then you hear the
Yes.
song play, and then you see like the writing, the cursive and stuff like that. It's really fun.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
so and another iconic scene is I do really like the her pouring the water. I mean, it's A plus
It's so
cinema.
good. It's so
It's so
good.
good. So yeah, and then another scene which is good because it definitely ties into part of it is when she goes to his room and he's like basically calls her out. Well, he doesn't. I don't want to say that. In the beginning of it, he calls her out for being childish and takes a real saint to ask daddy for money, whatever. And that's how he views her. He views her as like a kid. I don't want to say that sounds kind of gross. He views her as like
She's immature, kind of, sort of,
immature.
and
That's
or
how he views
like,
her. until he
like
gets to
she's
know
just
her,
thinking.
because he doesn't know her from like anybody, because he's like she just comes into town like with her family.
Yeah.
So he says that to her. When she gets the money, like, is this kid for real? Like she got this money. He's like, yeah, it really takes a saint to ask daddy for money. That's exactly what she did. And so that's kind of how you view it. And then when they the dance where they do the dance together, where she fills in for Penny, and then they're driving back, and this is like after like they go and check on Penny and all that whole scene, and then he goes to his like cabin, and then she like she goes there a little bit afterwards, and they basically like have it out, like not they don't have it out, like, but they talk, and he was just like, she's like, I'm sorry my dad treated you that way, because essentially her dad was like, who's this responsible for this girl being Penny? And he was like, me. So he's assuming, okay, you're the one who knocked her up and like had a butch abortion, like fuck you, like you're a piece of shit. And it's like, I would say good on Dr. Houseman, because like walking into it not knowing the situation, like that's what he thought, and it's like,
right,
that's how else is he gonna know? It's not like he's gonna go, oh yeah, well, this other guy did it, whatever. He was like, she's like, I'm sorry my dad treated you that way and all that. And she was like, I could never do that for Penny, like he saved her, like blah blah. And then he was like, basically she's just like kind of like professing her love for him, like like,
yeah.
And then he's saying, 30 minutes ago in the movie, he was like, she's immature. He's like, that was really brave of you to like call him and do that. Like, I could have, whatever. And then of course they have like their love scene and all that. So that's like a touching point, because I think that really solidifies their part of it, their real connection, and because they at that point they've already done the tension and doing the dances, and this really ties into like all that coming to it, and then how they basically fall in love. So those are like probably my favorite scenes. But like again, the whole movie as a whole is so good.
Just the whole movie. That's your pageant answer.
Yeah, it's just my pageant answer. But yeah, my absolute number one, and I don't think anything will top it, is The Lift. I mean, the last little bit, it's just so good.
And it's been parodied so much, and it's
later,
been referenced.
I still love it so much. So
yeah, and it's a good one. It's a nice finale and all that. I really like that. But yeah, I mean,
when they have the water scene too, where they do it, like how like when they're practicing, and it's so funny because they end up doing the show, and then she ends up not even doing it. Like he's like going to do it, like they're going to do the lift, and then
and they can't at
like,
first,
and then she just kind of makes something up, and then he was like,
like
that was like the whole thing of them doing the lifts, and then but then I guess like a part of it, like they end up showing at the end, which is cool. So
that's nice. Yeah, I think if anything, we'll start to wrap up a little bit. We're actually not too bad on time, I don't think, but
about our norm.
About our norm. To wrap it all up though, and this is a movie we had a lot to say. We have a lot to say about it, but I think overall, I think this movie is something where I'm so glad I watched it, and I do think it has a certain it has a certain legacy to it. Is it a cult classic? I mean, kinda. I mean, I don't know. Like it spawned a little sequel to it. Have you ever seen the sequel, the Havana Nights one? Did you ever watch that?
I did watch it. I think it came out in 2002 or 2003.
It came out in like 2004, 2005 or something, I think. Somewhere in the early 90s, some of the early 2000s.
Early 2000s. I did watch it because obviously, like, Dirty Dancing's my jam, obviously, as evidence in this podcast. So, of course, I had to watch it back then. And Patrick Swayze does make a cameo. I do believe he is playing the same
role. It's a prequel. It happens before the events of, I believe.
I think it happens in like the 50s.
It's something like that.
But it wasn't the same. It was kind of cool they brought him in, but it was
cute,
I've watched
but like
it.
meh. But yeah, I mean, it has
the actual
this.
Dirty Dancing 1987 is
it right?
The greatest.
And I think also it's so interesting to find out that this movie really, I mean, it was released and distributed by a home video releaser, like a distributor, and that already has cult like written on it, you know what I mean? And I just finding out that this movie really honestly was a low budget independent movie. That's the big thing. This was not made by a major studio. That's a big deal, because now it's known as this like huge movie that's so made millions of dollars and all this, but this was an independent movie, y'all. Like that's a big deal. Like I don't know, it's so.
And I just thought about this because I kind of wrote it down. Also, there's definitely very quotable parts of this movie that have
quotable,
that have stood the test of time, as evidenced as Forrest Gump is very quotable. Clueless is very quotable. I'm sure there's so many other movies out there that are very quotable. But the part where she's like, "I carried a watermelon," She's
I
like, I
carried a
carried a watermelon.
watermelon.
And then she was like, I carried a watermelon. Like, who says that? But it's like, people will say that, or like it'll be on shirts, or like it's just so funny.
Yeah.
Like it's
Or
just like,
like, don't
what?
put
Like,
baby in a corner,
yes,
or any of
nobody
these
puts
kinds
baby
of
in a corner.
things.
Is such
Yeah.
like the iconic part of
Yeah.
it when he's coming to get her. When he comes back into the place, and
Right,
he's
right.
gonna grab baby, from the she's in a corner, and he was like, but it's just like that's such a good part.
She's not really in a corner. She's more near a pillar, I think. But it's fine.
No, it actually, like how they had her, like they had him sitting at a round table, like a table that
Yeah.
was like a circle, and it was the dad and baby and then the mom. But like it was like up against a wall, but like it was kind of like there was like the wall behind her, but then there was like a part of like the wall, and did look like a corner.
Oh,
I don't
well,
think it was a
anyway.
pillar.
This is Sarah defending the corner logic for Dirty Dancing. No, you're good. But like no, I just think like, and just the fact that this movie has like a literal whole business that does like, it's the filming location, and they're able to put on these different screenings and stuff. Like
They also, yeah, they
that's
also
there
do
too.
they also do, I was going to say, theater shows like Broadway. I don't know
Yeah.
if it's exactly on Broadway, but they definitely do theater shows where you can go to like a show, and people act it out and like that.
Yeah. I
I've
mean,
always
I
wanted to see that. I just have never done it.
right. But
That's
I
happened.
think if anything, like this movie has just had this whole other life, and finding out just like how it came, and that it was a little independent movie that ended up hitting big. I mean, I just think that is such, and really kind of skyrocketed like Patrick Swayze and like all this kind of stuff. I'm just fascinated by it. And I am glad that I like it more than I thought I maybe would have, which is something that's nice. And now I understand why you like it. Like I can totally get it. And it's something that can bond us a little bit, where I'm like, you know what, Sarah, I like Dirty Dancing too. I think it's a great little movie. And our mom kind of feels the same way too. She likes that movie. So it's kind of cool to have that. And we'll probably go on a trip to Virginia to that little place, because I want to go
for
to
sure.
it too.
But when you kind of like look at everything, I think really what makes the movie is Patrick Swayze. I mean, I feel like if you wouldn't have had Patrick Swayze, in this movie, let's say you would have had, I don't want to say Billy Zane because that was just laughable.
Right.
But let's say you would have had somebody else, they wouldn't have been able to get Patrick Swayze or whatever. He wasn't Patrick Swayze. He wasn't who he was. It would have been a whatever it was movie. But I'm not saying this because he's passed away. I mean, definitely is a sad part that he's not here with us anymore. But kind of think about it. I'm like, what could he have done if he was still around?
Yeah.
And all that. But he really makes the movie for me. I mean, for me, it's like, yes, they're the whole movie in itself, but he really ties in to what makes the movie so great, I think. And that's what it is. All the supporting characters and things like that are great. Patrick Swayze really is like the heart of the film, kind of as he is for Ghost. Like him and Demi are really great together, but he's a really good part of that movie too. He was a really great actor, and sad to see him go. That he left this earth so soon. But yeah, he definitely does it for me. Not he's definitely not bad to look at either. But because he was he was up back in the in the 80s. Like that was like the 80s and 90s. They were like his time. But he definitely did. He definitely did the role justice, and they definitely got the right person for it. And that's why I'm so standoffish, and I'm so like annoyed when they want to remake it. I'm like, no, like leave
you don't need
it
to.
alone.
Yeah.
He was it. You do not need to redo it. Like, how dare you? Because everybody's going to compare it. If somebody was to watch the 2017 one and not even know the 1987 one was made, they'd be like, okay, cool.
Okay.
But then if they watch the original, they watch one from Patrick Swayze, they'd be like, oh my god, like what the hell?
Yeah.
Why would you remake this? So
and again, I think it's so cool with this too. I just think it's so cool that this movie really was created by a woman and her experiences as a young person. It was brought to life by a woman who helped produce it, and they've been able to make money bank off of it, which is great. It was directed by a gay man that they took a chance on at a time where being gay was still taboo, really. This movie is so punk rock. It has an abortion subplot that is not a huge thing in movies at the time, and it had enough balls to do it. I don't know. I just think this movie has a lot going for it.
Yeah.
And I just love that this is something that a bunch of girls have watched and really love. I hope a lot of people watch it and they like it, because it's not a stupid romance always. It's
Right.
yes, that's in there, but there is more to it, and it's a really cool period piece
For
that I think
sure.
is worth checking out.
100%. And again, also with the subplot, it's like it doesn't really like take over the entire movie. Like, again, it
It
needed to be
doesn't.
in there. It did need to be in there for the movie to make more sense than what, like you said, if it wasn't in there, it would just be like a silly kind of movie. But I definitely think that it does it beautifully how they kind of put everything. They do it and they don't put it down your throat
Yeah.
and all that. And it's just really nicely done. And it's
I really think that came from the screenwriter too, because she put it in there because if anything, maybe people will make it's not like up in your face, but it's more so just like maybe people will think of it afterward. And I think she got exactly what she wanted.
But think about this actually, now that you just said that, because you're saying like, oh, it was a gay director and all that, took a chance on him, and it was this woman that. But okay, so that's the thing, is this movie couldn't have been what it was or been made as it was if it wasn't for a woman. Because if a man, first off, wouldn't have been able to write it, because they wouldn't have.
No, absolutely not.
It would have been a different movie. So if there's ever any movies that have like that type of plot in it, it's gonna probably, I'm not saying it, but it would just be told differently, is what I'm saying.
Totally.
Is I think the way it works is just because all the right people and all the right minds were in it, and
that's absolutely
but like,
right.
Saying, is if a man was like, oh, well, she's gonna have it's like it would have been different, because you would have had, because as we know, men can't go through that because they don't. It's just the way physics works.
Cis men, yes, at least don't go through that.
Men, yeah. So it's like, like that would have been written because a woman did the whatever it was, like the writing.
There's a level of sensitivity to it, and there's a level of that would have not came from that. A
male. Not to hate on males,
writing it and producing it,
right. I'm not hating on males,
because technically, I think men were a part of the producing of it in a way. They had to have been, but mostly it was produced by Linda, and I'm sure executive producing something or whatever. But I just think there's a level of sensitivity, and I really like that.
But as we've talked about in like kind of previous movies before, maybe even you said it on other movies, maybe I have been a part. We have, I think we have kind of dived down just a little bit that sometimes it's like if a guy wrote this, but it's like
completely
they don't. It's like we kind of what I'm talking about. Like we kind of mentioned this before. Like if a man wrote it, like it's kind of like what, like.
Well, it's the difference between having someone write Legally Blonde as somebody who Elle Woods was supposed to be like having a relationship with her professor or something. Right. And it's different from something that being made from men and how it ended up being. So I absolutely think like in this movie, like the fact that it was written by a woman who these are kind of her experience as a young person. It was produced by a woman who I think also wanted to bring that to screen, and all of this, the fact that I didn't know all of that and finding it out, it's really cool to see that, because again, that is exactly why earlier we mentioned that's why this movie got passed on by so many different studios, because they just didn't understand what to do with it. And that's what happens with a lot of media that is female led. They're like, wait, what? There's too many women in this. Like, what is this? Especially at that time. And so I think this movie obviously found a niche, and it found people who love it. And I'm glad to know that it's a movie that, yes, there is romance. Yes, it is this kind of movie, but I think it has more, and I would want to show this to a young teenage girl and be like, hey girl, you should watch this movie, because not only is it good, but I think you'll hopefully get something out of it. And tell me what you think after you watch it, because it's one of those movies you got to watch as a teenager, hopefully, and get to have that. And then you get to see what's but you get to see when you're an adult too, you get to see how much it holds up.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that, not just again me being biased, this is the second time I'm stating it, that it's my favorite movie, but I really do think it's a classic movie that anybody, really, man, woman, whoever, I mean, not child, but I think anybody should watch it, because it's a generally good movie.
So
it has it's good. It's got, like I said, it's got coming of age, drama, romance. There's a little comedy in there for some of the kind of funny scenes, there's a little bit of comical moments. It's really not like a comedy.
There
movie,
actually
but,
is. There actually is some good comedy in here because I think Wayne Knight does a good job with that.
Yeah,
and also just like that, and then also like Lisa, even though like her whole thing with like her singing her little like weird Hawaiian like luau dance thing, that's like really funny and silly. Like there are good little comic moments in here that I like too, that I think are also just still really good. So yeah. Totally. But I think that's everything we can talk about. Go ahead. Yeah.
Sorry. Because I did write it down in part of it, and I didn't really harp on it much because I knew we talked about Robbie earlier, and we kind of like harped on him from, but he kind of had to be harped about because he was the worst.
He's
gross.
But
I did write about, I didn't write, but I like wrote down Neil, the one that they try and like set baby up with.
Oh, that other creep.
Yeah, I wrote blech, and I'm like boring.
Yeah, like, no,
sorry, he wasn't much to look at, but he was so entitled and so like uppity, and I didn't like that about him.
Yeah, I'm glad
they squashed like that little. I know I felt like I should have brought this up earlier, but whatever. But like I just was like, when they brought him on screen, like I know they brought him in just kind of for like the little bit of time, but like so I didn't really baby was never really going to go for him. Like come on now. But he was just like, oh, I own hotels. Look at me go.
Well, he was a hospitality student, so he was going to just take over the family business. Yeah.
Right. But then, near the end of the movie, close to the end, when they're doing like their dance, well, really, they're kind of like hanging out, like kissing and stuff like that, her and Johnny. And then Neil comes and he's like, hey, I'm in charge of the last show. And he was like, he's the boss, or essentially he's the boss. And then, Johnny's like, oh, like we should do this. Like I know we do the same stuff, but he was like, this could be something new that could be really exciting. And he was like, yeah, no, let's not do that. Like he just like downs him, like he downgrades.
Yeah,
him. And that's another part of the class thing. Like he's like, I'm better than you. Like I'm college educated. I blah blah blah. And he's just like, sit down. And it's like,
he shoots him down. He shoots down his idea. Yeah, you're right.
And it sucks because I'm like, it probably would be amazing if he did it. And they end up doing what they did anyway. But it's like I just think he always like every time he's on the screen.
Yeah,
whatever, he rubbed me the wrong way. I'm like, not as much as Robbie, but I didn't like him. Yeah, I was like, ugh.
I think I was referring to him earlier, where I was like, oh, when they meet him, maybe it was Robbie, but I think I was referring to this guy Neil. Yeah, he also gives me the ick too. He's just
100%.
That actor. Both of those actors did good. So
exactly, they did good at doing the ick. But it's like that's good when like a actor can do that. Like they're probably a perfectly nice person, but they can give you the ick with the show. But I wanted to just harp on him for just for a second because like he just was like, I know he had to be part of the movie, but like I was just like, nah, he was whatever. I just don't really like
fair. Him. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I didn't either. I feel you, girl. Yeah. All right, but I think that's everything we can think of right now. I mean, this is not as normal. I think we're a little under 2 hours or whatever, so it's all good. This had a lot.
It's my favorite movie, so
it is your favorite movie. I had to bring someone to watch it and to talk about it, and I'm glad we were able to. But yeah, I think now in terms of movie, like how to stream it or whatever. I mean, of course, it's always on streaming somewhere. It was on Tubi not too long ago.
It still is for a couple more days, but it's like
when you're here when we're recording it. So it probably will stream somewhere else, I would hope. It's that, and then I think that's everything I can think, at least right now.
And if you're a really big fan like me, you can just buy like the 30th anniversaries and all that good stuff.
Get some Blu-ray if you want. Exactly, get on Blu-ray if you want. I'm sure it'll come out again. But no, totally. I was gonna say, Sarah, do you have any particular kind of send-offs or anything? Did you want to plug your social media or anything like that for people to follow you on?
Social media, my Instagram is Rainbow Paradise 16.
If you want to follow her, just whatever you post on there, I don't know, things like that. I think that's all. But I want to thank you so much for coming on the show and giving us a chance to talk about this fun movie and
I'm
nice
glad
little birthday present for you. I'm glad I did too. I'm very glad. But thank you so much for coming on the show.
I'm glad I wore you down, and I was like, do Dirty Dancing, damn it.
Do it, and then we'll finally make it happen. But but thank you so much for coming on the show and talking about it. Okay. As always, if you'd like to get in touch with me, you can do so via email at cultcinemacircle@gmail.com in case you want to give any movie or episode recommendations, give feedback on the show, or if you'd like to just say, hey, I'm open to all of it. If you'd like to follow the show on social media, you can do so on Instagram and Instagram threads at Cult Cinema Circle. I tend to post what I'll be covering for the next week on there, post stories, things like that. On X, I'm at Cult Cine Circle. On there, I don't really post a whole lot, but if you want to follow the show, it's there for you to follow. And then on Letterboxd, I'm at Jesse, Jesse, Kremp, Kremp, all one word. On there, I log little movie reviews, I'll log what I'm watching, and then it's also a nice way to kind of see what I might be covering on the show in the future. Be sure to rate, comment, and subscribe to the Cult Cinema Circle podcast on your podcatcher of choice, whether that be Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. I'm pretty much on all of them. Be sure to leave 5 stars and a 1 to 2 sentence review about the show so we can grow the audience and then just spread the love all around. Be sure to tune in next week to the Cult Cinema Circle podcast, where I'll be covering 2009's Sorority Row. When 5 sorority girls inadvertently cause the murder of one of their sisters in a prank gone wrong, they agree to keep the matter to themselves and never speak of it again, so they can get on with their lives. This proves easier said than done when after graduation a mysterious killer goes after the 5 of them and anyone who knows their secret. As always, thank you for taking the time to listen to the Cult Cinema Circle podcast, and remember, nobody puts baby in a corner. Take care. Bye.